Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 82. I'm your host Mo, and I'm joined once again by my kissed and bonded friends Willie.
I'm bonded, right?
And Jody.
Bonjour, mon amis. C'est vrai?
Oh. The bond is turned in French.
Oh, yeah. Just laugh like, and then you start.
That scene with Logain and Tovine and stuff caught me kind of by surprise, and it sent me down a little rabbit hole of like
out of my chapters.
March straight into Willie's chapters.
Just straight into my chapters. Straight into stealing my content.
I'm straight into more Willie's chapters.
I'm just elaborating on my little intro and why I named you Kissed and Bonded.
I want to say something. I don't want to go into Willie's chapters now. He's going to get pissed. We'll talk about it.
You'll get a scolding. You better bet yourself.
Check yourself,
okay.
bitch.
Okay. Non-spoiler comments about Willie's chapter on our full spoiler cast.
No. We can talk about it after I've had my say.
Okay. Well, one thing I will say is that I always thought about Book 8's climax being obviously that big showdown outside of Ebou Dar. There's a fair bit of stuff that's crammed into these last couple of chapters, one of which is obviously what we're alluding to here about Willie's last chapter. But I'm pleasant. I have finished Book 8 now, and I have started on Winter's Heart.
Of course.
Couldn't stop reading. Yeah, I had to. A shocking amount of stuff crammed into what will be this episode and our next episode, the last two for The Path of Daggers.
I was surprised.
Which is exciting.
I took out my hardcover, and as you can see, like, it's only that little bit left. I was like, oh shit, it's at the end.
Yeah, we're right there. It's just this episode and the next one, and then it's on to Winter's Heart.
It's a short book.
It is, but man, it brings the heat. I don't know how this is counted in with the slog at all. I am perplexed. I thought that. I have said that on this podcast, that for me, Book 8 is the start of the slog, and I will now retroactively reprimand myself for even thinking it.
I agree with you. I think it's 9. 9 is how I recall the slog beginning, because it's literally parents slogging through the snow for 5,000 words.
Let's see how much of that book is parents slogging through the snow, because it's on the cover and it's what we remember, and you want to read about Perrin because we've been starved of Perrin now for a while, obviously. So I am very excited to see. I don't want to look too far ahead. We have to finish Book 8 first, but I'm very excited to see whether Book 9 still falls within the slog for me or not. And then the ultimate test will be Crossroads of Twilight. That is, in my mind, the most boring book in the series by a long shot.
Yeah. As I recall, Book 10 should be kindling, if anything.
And by that, you don't mean read it on a Kindle. You mean use it to light the fire.
I had to think about that because I was going to say it should be Kindle. And then I went, no, that's not right. Yeah.
Okay, well then, let's forge ahead into the building and sustained climax of A Path of Daggers. But before we do that, let's look behind us in everybody's favorite section called Callbacks. We asked how much balefire was used to kill Leah. Remember we were talking about Rand sending like arms outstretched wide. So I went back to read the scene to just see whether we're talking out of our butts again or not. And there's no description about the amount, just that enough was used for her to be dead before her agony began. That's it. So actually maybe not that much, like only if it's only taken her back to before her agony began. Could be this attack, or like Willie said, back before she was mentally anguished. Because, Mashadar hadn't touched her until this point, but she couldn't have had much of a great time in Shadow Logoth in the weeks between Orion.
No, the anger, not the anger, the hunger alone, being in there for weeks without food. There's not even a chirp of a bird.
Yeah, I know.
Her own tongue. I don't know.
Who knows? Stray shadow spawn.
Ugh, that must taste terrible.
Ugh.
In that conversation, we were wondering who came up with the Hot White Light of Justice tag, and of course that was coined by none other than Gerald. Credit where credit is due, Gerald. Sorry that I didn't remember your name on the spot, but White Hot Light of Justice is Gerald's creation. Then The definition of a haiku. A type of short-form poetry that originated in Japan. Traditional Japanese haiku consists of 3 phrases composed of 17 phonetic units called on in Japanese, which are similar to syllables, in a 5-7-5 pattern, Joe. So I think you were virtually, I don't know if you said 5-7-5, but you were pretty close.
I know it's something like that, yeah.
It includes a kereji, or a cutting word, and a kigo, or a seasonal reference, which is cool. But I mean, some people, if you deviate from those very strict things, it becomes something else. But I won't go down that path.
Moritz, I do think, I believe that you believe that you're explaining this to us, and that this is going to help us understand it more. But I'm here to tell you that I'm now more confused than ever.
I wanted to read the only example that I know of a haiku, which is from a pretty unlikely source, which is Fight Club, which is, I don't know if you remember the one about the bees. It goes, worker bees can leave, even drones can fly away. The queen is their slave.
Yes.
I think it's Ed Norton's character who's just like sitting in the office writing strange haikus and leaving them in the photocopier and shit.
There was no season.
No, there wasn't. Nor was there a cutting word necessary, unless slave is it. Don't know. And then we also spoke about the last nobles to come through the gateway. Remember, Vil, we were saying, like, why were these nobles last? Were they sort of umming and ahhing about whether they're going to come along or not while the Seanchan were attacking the farm? So on the farm, as the Seanchan approached, Elise told the guests of the farm that the last 10 to be ready to leave would be doing the washing up for a couple of days, right? And that's in reference. That's how we spoke about it. And then when some of the farm guests find out that they're traveling to Andor, they say that they actually don't want to go. So there were a bunch that said, Andor, we don't want to go. And at that point, they are literally chased away on foot. They're like, Elise and the rest of the farm staff are like, all right, we'll take your horses and all your stuff. You guys go, get out of here. We'll compensate you again down the track. And then as they prepare... Yes, and then as they prepare to go through the gateway, it is said explicitly that Elise carefully notes the last 10. So she's there counting the last 10 people, and they're mostly nobles.
No surprise.
Yeah, so
these ones whatsoever.
These ones weren't really in 2 minds. They were just the slowest ones to. I mean, if you're gathering a large group of people, there's going to be 10 that are last, and the last were mostly nobles. We mentioned that Rand kept that particular group of nobles with him during these raids in Altara, right? On the Seanchan, not because he wants to keep his enemies close, but because there will be casualties, and those might as well be his enemies' deaths, right? So we mentioned keep your friends close and your enemies closer. He makes a specific comment to Bashir, like, yeah, the butcher's bill is going to be high, and why not just use up all these people that I don't trust? Some of them he doesn't trust because they're plotting against him, and he thinks incorrectly, or maybe correctly, that Wiramon is just too dumb to be left alone. Like, he needs to keep Wiramon near him.
Yeah. And
then Wiramon almost causes his death. So he is right about him being dumb, or I don't know. Maybe he hides his subterfuge beneath a veneer of idiocy.
Perhaps. I've wondered the same thing.
You've asked it on this podcast, and we have not been able to explain it thus far. Maybe it all comes to the fore when Rand eventually exposes him as a Dark Friend. When Bashir is talking to Rand about the old worn remnants of a statue while they travel, Bashir guesses that it's that statue of a Shiotan queen. Rand shuts down the conversation, saying it doesn't matter to move on. But Bashir persists, and he ends the monologue with something along the lines of, there's no reason to die before your time. And Rand shuts him down sharply again with a, I don't intend to. And it's at that exact moment that Padros tries to kill Rand with a bow and arrow. So it's like, I don't intend on dying before my time, and then gets shot at and almost dies. But yeah, we were talking about Bashir and whether he was being bold or whether he was being very, very, very careful. I feel like he was being bold because Rand actually told him to shut up about it. And then he goes on to use the story as an excuse to say, you should not be doing this because you're going to get yourself killed unnecessarily. And then almost to prove his point, Padros steps out of the tree line and fires an arrow at Rand.
I feel like Bashir is like a dad. Like I've dad to Rand. You know?
Totally.
I've been in this position. It's like when you just say, what did I just tell you? You know?
Yes, but also being left like, okay, I guess I just have to let him make a mistake now. Like, I've told him everything I could. Now he needs to learn for himself. He needs to burn his fingers. And on that attack specifically, Rand doesn't actually fall out of his saddle. He's sitting on the horse and does a projectile vomit off the side without falling off. It's only later that he
spew.
That he has a spill out. After the second attack on Rand, this time from the Seanchan after Weramon leaves them exposed, Idle and Ionella consider killing Rand. Ionella openly brandishes that ruby-hilted dagger, but it's Ailil that turns Rand over. So Ailil is the one that's right next to him. We were talking, Jody, about whether she had a knife out or not. He sees her hand move near her belt, and he can't tell if she's drawing a knife or sheathing it. But then later, when the troops arrive, Ailil does sheath a knife, which means she had pulled one out, sitting right next to Rand, and the implication there is obviously that she was very close to actually doing something about it. For the record, Ionella is a dark friend, and she's outed alongside with Weramon. We said that last time. But Ailil starts a relationship with a Seafolk Windfinder, even though she's married. And then later, she strongly supports Elaine and her claim to the Lion Throne. And right at the end, Elaine actually rewards her with some land in Andor for her support. So Ailil's not going anywhere, despite considering stabbing Rand or slitting his throat. Then I made a mistake. I said Gregorin is the leader of the companions, but he's not. He's an Illianer, but a member of the Council of Nine. He's the one that presents Rand with the Crown of Swords after Rand takes Illian. The leader of the companions is Dimitri Mokolan. I got them confused.
Dimitri.
The plural for Damane is Damane, not Damanes. We see it in these chapters that we'll cover tonight.
But we saw it in previous chapters that it was Damane.
That one time, Damanes, and I hold strong that is incorrect. That's just a mistake. The Damane are said to be quote-unquote sick around Ebou Dar when we read from the Seanchan side, but Elaine and Nynaeve didn't seem sick at all. I mean, obviously shit was weird for them for sure, but they didn't feel or look sick. Yeah. The shit was weird. So I read this as the Damane just being totally freaked out by it. Like, like dogs when they hear fireworks, like they need their owners to help, like sort of soothe them, because the Damane's whole life is defined by her ability to channel by the time they're broken, right? And now they can't channel properly, and so they're all skittish. And we see it in these chapters as well, obviously. Like the Seanchan are reticent to rely on the Damane because they don't know what's going to happen with them. But I just thought it was interesting that they keep talking about the Damane as being sick, but that's just shorthand.
The Suldam are also sick.
Well, they should be, but the Suldam don't even know that they can channel. And the Suldam, in the chapters we've read thus far, are not actually sick. It's one of those Seanchan, the guy that dies like off page in the very next section of the chapter, when he goes to the Damane to ask or to the Suldam, how are your Damane? The Suldam are all sitting outside and they're having a chat. They're fine, but the Damane are not great. Then Lan's comment about Birgitte being Kandori. It's Elaine's point of view that comments on how much agony she feels through the bond when Lan is pulling that bolt from her leg. It needed his strength. It said, like, Nynaeve and Elaine couldn't pull the bolt out. Like, Lan had to come, like you said, Villy, it's probably like wedged in the bone or something in the air to like really apply some elbow grease. And the blood drains from Birgitte's face, but she hardly made a sound. Lan notices that, and he mutters under his breath, Taishar Kandor. Like, he's not asking her, are you from Kandor by any chance? He's just like, fuck this chick. She's not even making a sound, and he knows how hard this was. He's like, oh. So he mutters under his breath, Taishar Kandor. And then Birgitte blinks at him. And when he notices her blinking at him, he goes, oh, forgive me if I erred. I assumed your clothes were from Kandor. And then in our chapters we're covering today as well, actually, I lie. I've read ahead. It's in Winter's Heart. When Tovin is at the Black Tower, Elaine and Birgitte come to the Black Tower to inspect it. And Tovin observes Birgitte, not knowing who she is, and she describes her as dressed as a Kandori. So I think it was a pretty safe assumption from Lan that she was Kandori and not necessarily
Not only does he
prying.
start the podcast by getting in my chapters, but now he's getting into my future chapters as well.
Yes.
He touched on my chapters too. It's like, Morris, why don't you
bank all of them?
just take a chapter, We won't mind.
There will be some of that in the next book, that's for sure. I've already laid them all out.
All right.
And then lastly, I mentioned that Brandon Sanderson being able to talk to Robert Jordan before he passed away, but that was incorrect. They never met in person. Brandon wrote an online eulogy for Robert Jordan, and Harriet, Robert Jordan's wife and editor, read it and eventually reached out to Brandon. RJ did leave lots of notes and completed scenes and numerous dictations of contents of what he was planned for one final book. But there was so much that Harriet and Tor decided to split into 3, and I think we can all agree that was the right thing to do. Those last 3 books are great. But the comment I made about Brandon being able to extract a lot of information from Robert Jordan is just, it's not true. They never met in person. So, on to listener contributions. Ian Yellen sends this. It was just too late for the last podcast, so some of these comments are actually relevant to the content in the previous episode, but I'm going to read it out for Ian anyway, since he's been such a regular contributor. He says he's really enjoying the podcast, though the up-and-coming battles with Rand are painful to read since they were just so full of him going down a darker and darker path. Here are some of my thoughts on the last episode. With the oaths by the Black Ajah, I'm in the camp that if the Black Ajah member believes they will die in the hour, then they can, not will, release their secrets. So if someone like a full-up, oath-bound Aes Sedai says that the Black Ajah member will be executed, say, in 45 minutes, and the Black Ajah member believes the Aes Sedai, then as said before, the Black Ajah member can tell, which is what my stance was as well. But then Ian adds something interesting. My mind then goes with this example further, though. If a Black Ajah member is told and believes they have an hour to live, and then tells everything, if they aren't killed at the hour, do they all of a sudden die on their own? The reason I wonder is the Black Ajah member who stops breathing because they can't disobey two contradicting oaths. Like they would have given an oath not to do that thing, then did it, didn't die. Maybe the constriction from the oath.
This is loopholes within loopholes. This is loopception, as Willie would
like
say.
That fits. Yeah.
I think there's a big paradox in these oath rods.
I don't think paradox is the right word.
I don't know. I like that word today, so I might use it for you.
You liked it in the last episode as well. I don't think it is a paradox. I think that logic actually flows pretty nicely, but we'll never know because it never happens. Ian also said that Halima was Arangar since the very beginning when she met Delana. Halima said her name was Arangar, which scares Delana. The war powers doesn't give the Amelin total power, just in issues regarding the war, so Egwene has to several times make great leaps of logic to connect these issues, training, food, embassies, and etc. To the war. Otherwise, the Hall can screw her up there, which we also suspected would happen at some point. Ian thinks that Gareth Bryan joined the rebels partly for Swan, but partly because he was bored and didn't want to feel like he was being put out to pasture. I think that was made pretty clear in those early chapters when Swan crosses paths with him first. And that he sided with Egwene because he saw her character and felt that she was a good leader and one he could follow, which I think is absolutely part of it. I wouldn't say it's the only reason, but he seems to be a pretty good judge of character. And who better than our girl Egwene? And then the last one from Ian is, in the last episode, you guys mentioned Rand's dizziness being attached with the taint or the weirdness. The dizziness started right after Rand and Moradin Balefire streams crossed. Obviously, they didn't listen to Ray or Egon, which is what we said as well. Then, a submission from Carlton Griffin. In the last chapter summary, it was said the moonstones might refer to diamonds. Perhaps, but moonstones are a real thing. Enjoying the podcast from Atlanta, Carlton.
Ooh, Georgia, as you believe it's pronounced. Georgia.
If you're a South African Spaniard.
Yeah.
Okay, that is it for callback. So let's get through previously on Blood and Ashes. Nynaeve heals the group from the injuries they received while fleeing the Seanchan. They ride to Elaine's family estates where Elise organizes the kinswomen and nobles and quietens discord. The next morning, they ride on to Camelin. Elaine asks opinions on who people want for the queen, hearing various other rumors, most of which she dismisses. She is disappointed that under interrogation, Ispen fails to reveal anything useful, merely old plots. She examines Tarangril, being careful until one causes her to pass out with no memory of what happens and amusement from everyone else. Avienda uses some of the jewels she got from Lamon's sword sheath to buy them new woolen clothes. Merilil begins teaching the Windfinders how to channel, to the horror of some but not all of the kin. This concerns Elaine but not Nynaeve, who's been encouraging them to show more backbone. In Teleran Riyadh, they see a message left by Egwene telling them to stay in Camelin and to be careful. Meanwhile, Rand is building a force consisting of some of his least trustworthy nobles from Tyr, Cairhien, and Ilion and their soldiers, plus a Mashaman. Narishma also returns with Kalandor a couple days late because he had to navigate traps around Kalandor, which Rand had not told him about, we think. Outside Ilion, Rand is also joined by Bashir and the Legion of the Dragon that took Ilion. Rand gathers the forces and sets out to drive the Seanchan out of the mountains between Altara and Ilion, all the way back to Ebou Dar. He instructs Tashiva and other Ashaman to create gateways because he doesn't want anyone to see him getting sick from channeling. And as the force of around 6,000 moves into the mountains of Altara, Bashir cautions Rand against the strategy and hopes they don't die recklessly. Before the Seanchan are engaged, the Ilionist soldier that Rand met while scooping up somehow scattered forces tries to kill Rand with an arrow, but he misses and is fireballed by more than one Ashaman. We see from the Seanchan point of view that reports of Rand's forces are starting to reach the Seanchan. The commander of one of their outposts is a little concerned because the Damane have been behaving strangely, almost sick. The Ashaman work with devastating effect and the Seanchan take big losses, but Rand's forces are not without casualties, among them Aracombe, whose death was foreseen by Min. Seanchan Banner General Furik Karide is commanding a force with a number of Damane, but despite their prowess, Rand's forces are too much for them to handle and they have to fall back. After 5 days of fighting, Rand is winning. He orders the Ashaman to push even harder, sending Flynn and Deshiva to join the fray. Flynn is reluctant to leave Rand without protection, but Rand insists, and shortly after, a group of Seanchan managed an attack directly on Rand after Wiramon left Rand exposed by not following orders. Rand loses control of Sidin in the fight and falls off his horse. Ailil and Ionella deliberate over whether they should kill Rand while he is weak, but Bashir and some of the companions arrive in time to fight off the Seanchan and save Rand. After what seems like a resounding victory, Bashir suggests they cash in and go home, but some of the nobles plant the seed in Rand's ear that he should finish off the Seanchan, and Rand gives the order they will push on to Ebou Dar against Bashir's advice. Which brings us to Chapter 24, called A Time for Iron. Also a time for a summary from Jody.
It is indeed. One more point on Wiramon. In your summary there, you said that the Seanchan attacked Rand because he wasn't following orders and he went and chased off after somebody. I was wondering then, as I'm still wondering now, if he knew those Seanchan were there and he left the back open so that they could attack Rand.
Could very well be.
Well, him being stupid was actually on purpose.
He may have been following orders, but following the orders of a Forsaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's following somebody's orders, just not Rand's.
He is a hateful piece of shit, and he is either dumb and evil or just evil, neither of which is acceptable. So fucking
yeah, or just dumb. No, he's got to be dumb and evil. If dumb is involved,
he is a dark friend.
Yeah, we know that. I mean, he has to be evil at some point. I don't know.
Yes,
you do always have to keep in mind that because he associates with the Dark Friends doesn't mean the Dark Friends like him either.
No,
okay,
I don't think anyone likes him. It's in the
much
Dark
like Prophecies.
He likes him
in this chapter.
There's like little footnotes in the Dark Prophecies, like Wiramon is douche, don't trust him.
Yeah. Beware the fool. Distance yourself from him.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm going to go through this rapidly. We can talk the details at the end. All right.
A lot of action here, so yeah.
So many points of view.
Okay.
Point of views. No, points of views.
Points of view.
That's what I said the first time. All right, so we're starting with Kenar Mirage. He's an off-spinner. He has a name like that. So he's Captain General as well of some sort of forces. He is don't worry, you don't need to remember who this guy is from longer, right? So he's getting all these reports. He's in charge. He's listening to all the reports about all these enemy soldiers in the mountains. He's just like previously, what was the other guy's name? Kadiri or whatever, who's also dead. Like, where is this fucking guy? Hadnan.
Karedi. Hadnan Kadir was the human balloon.
Yes.
Furik Karedi is the Seanchan.
Furik. That's a very fucking cool name. Furik.
It is. Furik is a cool name, yeah.
Well, you can have it now because it's free. He's dead.
Oh, no, he's not.
Furik isn't. Oh, he's retreating. Basically, I can tell you that all of these chapters of the Seanchan boil down to either dead and or retreating. So, yes. He's also wondering, where the fuck have all these people come from? Where have these estimated 90,000 people, soldiers, where are they? They're in Altara, that's it. The Altarans. It's like, how did these people manage to do this? And how are they kicking our asses so badly? He has no fucking idea. He used to be, a pilot himself of the, what are they called? Shit, I didn't write it down. The Raken. He was a Morat Toraken. Yeah, he used to be one of them, but he's not allowed to fly now because his rank is too high, and he's bummed about that. He can't get 90,000 men onto the field. That's more than double what he's got, that he could even dream of having at this point. So he's a bit worried, but they seem to be spread out a lot. They've been overrunning all of their their outposts, and they've got them really spread out. So he thinks, at least they got that, so that's going to be a bit easier to take on. They're going to go out there and just face them head on. They got to do it. Because they've got their problem, though. He's a bit skittish because, as Moritz delved into many people's chapters, we found out that the Damane are sick. The Suldam, won't say anything about it. They're just like, no, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And he's like, I don't know what this is all about. And he's in the tent now discussing all of this shit, And in walks our old friend, the High Lady Suroth. Everybody flops down on their bellies like birds. And her voice is there. Alwyn, who starts talking for her, obviously, she's the voice. He notices that she has some strange Damane and a Dakoval with her named Leandrin. And I was like, Leandrin. Everybody can take 5 minutes now to giggle at themselves and rejoice in Leandrin's fortunes.
Suck it, Leandrin.
Suck it. The other Damane that's with her is not named, but I assume is Rima? The yellow Ajah that was captured, because he says there's something about their faces. Like, they got that ageless Aes Sedai looks at both of them. So Leandrin wasn't made Damane. She was made Dakoval. So she's just property now.
No, she is still Damane.
Yeah?
She is Damane.
She isn't colored.
Alwyn is the Dakoval. The voice is still Dakoval. They're still owned. They're still slaves.
Oh, okay. But I don't think Leandrin is collared.
She is. And Alwyn is wearing the bracelet. Alwyn is leading Leandrin.
I had to read this like 3 times. This morning, right before doing these notes, I had to reread it again to find out what is going on. Who is collared, who isn't. Because she twists... No, I can read it for you. She isn't collared. I will find these. Yeah, because she's got one hand a collar and she just twists her wrist and Rima falls down to her stomach. And then Leandrin doesn't move. And it says, one of the lines is, with her other hand that is not collared, she points to the ground and says, Leandrin, down.
Interesting. Okay, so she doesn't have Leandrin.
Yeah, Leandrin, in my understanding of it, is not collared. And she is branded as property.
Yeah.
She's a different new level of property.
Okay, so, Dakoval is much like the dancers that Suroth had when she was displaying them to Morghese and that sort of stuff. The Dakoval are just slaves and servants, right?
There's all different levels.
Okay,
of Dakoval.
Interesting.
Yeah, because that was because I had to figure out what was that, because it specifically mentions her hand that doesn't have the collar attached to it, and she points to the ground, like as if she was collared.
Interesting.
She would just sit down, and Leandrin would sit down. There's no fighting.
What's happening with Leandrin's channeling then?
I don't know, and that brings up another question. If the Aes Sedai have oaths never to use the one power as a weapon, what does the Adam do?
Leandrin's a dark friend. She doesn't have.
Yeah, but Rima isn't.
Bound by the oaths.
It would work if Leandrin was the collared one, but Rima isn't. She's not a dark friend. She's just a yellow, and they're forcing her to use the power as a weapon. But she's taken an oath to do that.
I'm going to create a callback for myself here, Jody. But I'm pretty sure that the Aes Sedai Damane are not used as weapons because they can't.
That would explain. I don't know why you're collaring them, like just to fuck with them,
Yeah. And Leandrin, I think, wasn't she shielded by Morghedian in Amador?
That's why.
Yes. In that mansion, and she was left with the woman that owned the house, and whose husband was made really sick by Morghedian. Like they took over that manor house, and then they left Leandrin with her. And I think when the Seanchan took Amador, Suroth took control of Leandrin. So Leandrin is shielded somehow. So maybe they couldn't collar her because of her not being able to channel.
Moritz, you are 100% correct. That is it.
Okay. I've stumbled
into a perfect explanation that covers every doubt I have. Okay. There we go. So that's why she's not collared. Because she's fucking useless. That's why. Yes. So anyway, these two are behaving really weirdly. Notes old Kenner Mirage. But anyway, I suppose that's just, we know they're weird because we know who they are. But yeah, not properly trained, and it's in violation of all these customs, and he is shocked and blah, 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 but he keeps it to himself because he is very low in the blood. Suroth wants to know, like, hey, are you guys ready to march? Because I've come here to sort shit out. We need to go and finish these dudes off. And he's like, yeah. I mean, I'm ready to combine my troops and everything. We're going to move out. And then, like, I think these guys, like, the enemy will be here within 10 days. And she's like, they'll be here tomorrow if they want. And he's like, I'm sorry, what now? The who, the what? And there are only 5,000 men in the mountains. There's not 90,000. And they've got Ashaman with them, these men who can channel. And they've rediscovered traveling. And he's just like, what the fuck? First of all, how do you know all this? And secondly, thinking to himself, this would have been useful like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, he's like, are you sure? And she's like, hey, you dare question me? He's like, all right, I'm sorry. But yeah, she's got all the info that he requires, and it's all shocked and news to him. He's disgusted that this side of the Arith Ocean, they let these Marath Daman run around wild, and now they've got men who can channel running around wild. This is all bullshit. He'll tame this land. So he's like, all right, fine. We know how to do it. Cyril's like, you will destroy these Ashaman. You will wipe them off the face of the planet. And he's like, oh, that's a good plan, but I'm going to need more than the dudes I got with me to take that out. Am I going to have this Damane and the Suldam ready to go? And she's like, yep, I'll sort them out. You will have them, and we will wipe them from the face of the earth. And just remember the price of failure, basically stroking Leandrin's braids. Like small failures have small consequences, but big failures have big consequences. So he's like, all right, I catch your drift. Switching over to Rand's point of view. All right, Bashir has had many complaints and about Rand's plans, which are shit. But Rand is saying, fuck you guys, I'm going to push these Seanchan right into the ocean on the other side. We're going to go over Ebou Dar. We're going to just push until we wipe them off. Because he's tired of these guys. He's got other shit to deal with on the other side. This last battle thing that people are talking about, that's coming too. Yeah, I got shit to do. He reminds everybody, like, there's a lot of, we've got a plan. There's a lot of Seanchan left. A lot of us are going to die today. Not me. I mean, you guys are going to die today. I know we haven't spotted any Damane yet. And, that's normally weird that there should be more of those guys. But still, there's a lot of them out here. Everybody stick to the fucking plan. Looking at you, Wyramon. Deshiva is trying to tell him as well, like, listen, mates, Sidon is strange. Like, I know it's not alive. Yes. I know all this shit, but it's like, it's pulsing, it's eager, it's, they're all holding open gateways to travel in. And Rand's like, oh man, you're exaggerating. It's just the taint, you're feeling it more, probably going crazy, whatever. He's like, fucking look at the weaves. Just stop for a second and look at my weaves that are happening. And they're like quivering. And Rand is like, oh shit, you're right. He finally... takes it. Every single Ashaman. It's like, how many were there? Like 51 or something like that? Well, there's not that many.
No, not even.
No, there were soldiers and Ashaman.
Yeah,
I think
and
they were like dedicated, like 40 something. I've had the numbers listed in the last podcast. Right. Go back and listen to what I said previously. Those amount of people. And they've been telling him this whole time that everything's weird. So finally, he actually stops and sees for himself that, that he's talking the truth, that Deshiva knows what he's talking about, and it is weird, but he's like, well, wondering what it is. Like, oh, well, I don't have time to think about this. I've got to get my army into gear and go and fuck up these Seanchan. So everybody's like, just deal with it, be careful, don't let it slip, and we'll be fine. Off they go, through gateways to go and kill some Seanchan. Back to Kenar, Mirage's point of view. Old Kenar, he's a lot here, but then he's not. So, yeah. He's moving his troops now to get hoping to catch them by surprise. He doesn't have any Rakan because they just get shot out of the sky. So it's hard in this terrain anyways. Everything's wooded and whatnot, but he's just trying to be lucky. He's got a few guys with him. We will mention them, although some of them will survive and others will not. There is Ebou Dar Yulan and some guy with one guy, Varric. That's it. That's what his name. If anybody listening are fans of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you may have watched the sequel of Korra, The Legend of Korra. Everybody knows Varric from that show. Shout out to Korra.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, but the other people out there, they know.
I'm sure they do.
Great show. Moritz, Willie, if you want to watch a cartoon with like deep meaning and just great fun with your kids, watch Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Cool.
So,
Noted.
Yeah. So, while he's figuring all this shit out and talking to his men, reports are coming in now. The enemy has been spotted. They're 5 miles ahead. Like, surprise, they were 10 days away. Now they're 5 miles ahead. So it was like, oh, well, shit, so much for trying to feel lucky. Still, he's got 50,000 troops with him. He's pretty loaded with troops, and he's got 50 Damane with him. So, a formidable force on any other day besides this one. So he's confident he should be able to beat them. That's if the Damane are not puking everywhere or sick or whatever the whole point is. Now we jump over to another point of view. This is Bertome Saigon, or Bertome, if you're Spanish. So Bertome is Colivier's cousin, who is, he's now head of House Saigon after she offed herself. And he's around for a while. He never goes away, but he never really does anything either. So now... No. He is also, amongst, this is already like, we're in the battle. All these little battles are happening. So he's now realizing that Rand probably means for him to die. He's starting to catch on to Rand's little plan here. It's like, a lot of people are going to die today. Probably one of them going to be me. So even with these battles, you can see the great game of houses is being played. And he's noticing all of this. Because he is a Cairhien. So he's wondering like what Wyramon is up to, for instance. He's got all these thoughts going through his head about who's going and what's happening and who else is going to die. I know, I like how Wyramon pops into his head. Like, hope that guy dies. But before he can, fuck that guy. Before he can find out what's happening or what's going to happen, there's another battle breaks loose. He has to go to battle, go to war. End of point of view. Back to Varric's point of view. He is now carrying messages, urgent messages, for some other banner general, Chain Mai. I don't know who this guy is. I looked him up. He dies pretty soon as well. Don't worry about him. Varric.
It's a theme, yeah.
It's a theme with these guys. They have very
a lot
cool
of guys
names.
going down.
Yeah, they are. They pop in. I go and Google them, look on the wiki of time, and there's like 3 lines for them. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Nothing happens to these people. So, like, Varric is... He is very, very, very disturbed by what he's been seeing happening here. He saw 100 of these lances, I suppose they were Amadicians or something, just ripped to shreds by one dude in a black coat. And he is not liking this at all. And he has got some Damane left with him, so, he's happy with that. He gets finally to where he's going to find this banner general Chain Mai. The dude's dead. He arrives there to find him dead, and he's like, all right, well, we can give him a funeral and whatnot. He at least there's some of him left, some scraps of him. He also finds all the men hanging around there, just super shaken and freaked the fuck out, because it was the Damane who actually channeled out of control and killed Chain Mai and some other dudes that were hanging around. The Suldam is denying any of this, of course. She's like, no, my good little girl wouldn't have done any of that. But everybody's freaked out. So we know that the power's all weird around here. It's affecting the Ashaman. It's affecting the Damane. Nothing is going to plan
foreshadowing.
Yeah. So Varric then assumes command since, well, everyone's fucking dead. I will take over. And he tells them, listen, I have a new plan. Let's get the fuck out of here. Let's disengage. We need to go somewhere else where we are not right now, and tells the Suldam is like, we're going to need you. You're going to have to come with me. We need to go down to the south or something to win. And the Suldam is terrified. She actually, like, the blood drains from her face. She's like, she doesn't want to go into battle anymore because she's fucking lying. We all know she's lying. And she was hoping they could get out of there, but nope. More death awaits you. All right, back to Davram Bashir. Old Davram. Old Daddy Davram, we'll call him from now on. Bashir is standing in the tree line. He's overlooking like this clearing, and he has to cross it. And he's like, I'm not fucking going out there. This is with all these channelers out of control around me. The Ashaman that he's got with him are seemingly tired. They're super slow in responding. One of these guys is old Roshide, who we know is a huge douche anyway. So I'm wondering if now these guys are they actually tired, or are they just
it's been
douchebags?
Like 5 or 6 days of solid channeling in this weirdness. Like,
okay. A lot of time has passed.
Yeah. Days and days of aggressive channeling.
The last time we read, the last chapters we did, it was supposed to be a 3-day campaign. It was 5. So like another 5 days have passed. So 10 in total now. Timelines. Or was it still the 5th day?
I don't know if it's quite that many, but it's been a long time.
All right. So anyway, they must be really tired then, like actual tired, not just fuck you, Bashir tired. So they are like slow in responding, and Bashir's like, "What's going on, guys?" And Rashid is like pissed off with him. He's like, "Dude, has there not been enough killing for you? You know, have you not seen what's going on?" And there's still plenty of enemies left, and there's going to be plenty of shit still to happen. So you just fucking, chill the fuck out. Bashir's telling them, "All right, we're not going to go through this clearing. This is a bad idea. We're going to go round. We'll stick to the tree line." Good plan, Bashir. Mm-hmm. Jump back to Rand's point of view. So he is filled to the brim with Sayadine, and he is he's having a hard time controlling it. Finally, starting to realize what these guys are talking about, and he's trying not to let it slip. It is slippery. Adley, our old Ashaman buddy, has already let it slip, and a lot of people died of his own men. So everybody needs to get it together now. But like you say, it's been a long time. People are getting tired. More slippage is bound to happen. Anayela is there as well. Rand's keeping them close. Bashir rides up. Here's Bashir. He came around the tree line, and he gives them this smile. And it's like, you fuckers smile. Not a happy smile. Not a pleasure to see you smile. He's keeping an eye on them, and these two women, Anayela and I little one as well, are just... Because he knows, because he was there when they were just about to slit his throat. He rocked up and he looked at them and he was like, "What the fuck are you guys on?" And he's still just keeping an eye on them because he knows what they're up to. Yeah. He tries to tell Rand, like, "Hey man, we are done here. Let's go. We need to retreat." And Rand is pissed off now. And he's like, "You're not ordering retreats. We are going to finish this here and now." He's like, "I am enough. I could take all of these guys out if I wanted to. And I actually want to. And look what I've got. Shwing!" And he pulls out Calandor.
Shwing.
Shwing. He's been stroking it this whole time. And now he pulls it out. And this fear ripples across the void. Fear from Luz Theron. Luz knows something that Rand doesn't know. But he's like, he dismisses it. He thinks, okay, the power's being weird, So it's just another one of those things. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And he channels. He's like, "Well, watch this. You think we're retreating? Watch this fucking shit. I'm going to pull some shit right now." And he starts channeling, and he is the storm, and the world will know it, and blah, 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 blah. And the lightning, thousands of bolts of lightning start raining out of the heavens and into the trees. And then he gets blinded, and something strikes him. He feels like he's being hit, and he gets hit again. And then he realizes what's going on. He's lying on the ground, and Bashir's on top of him, like grabbing him by the collar, screaming at him, telling him, like, "Stop it, man. You're killing us all." And when he kind of like comes to and sees what's happening around him, he's fucked everybody. All right. I've really paraphrased this, but his lightnings have been striking down inside. He's been striking at the Seanchan as well, no doubt. Okay.
Yeah. It took heavy losses.
Striking everywhere. Just, rain of fire everywhere. And he's killing his own guys. And Bashir had to tackle him out of his horse's seat onto the ground. And it's like, manhandling him on the ground. Rand just like drops Calandor and releases the power, and when he sees what he has done, old Adley is one of the victims of this, but there are a lot more. A lot of his guys are dead and injured, and horses are bolting, and people are screaming, and there's burnt people everywhere. It's fucking chaos. So Bashir finally lets him go, and Rand gets up slowly, and he's like, "Holy shit," and finally he realizes that Bashir is right, and he's like, we got to get the fuck out of here. We need to retreat. We need to back off. And finally... Finally...
No shit, Rand.
No shit. We jump back to Ebou Dar, Yulan's point of view. He's still alive. But Kenar Mirage, our off-spinner, is dead. And Yulan's...
Not so much alive.
Not so much alive. So yeah, you thought about looking him up earlier. Don't worry about it. So he's dead, and Yulan's actually crying about this guy. Apparently, I don't know what the relationship was, but apparently quite close. So nice. The Seanchan and Yulan's thinking to himself, like, "Wow, we haven't suffered a defeat like this. I don't know, in 100 years. Not in my lifetime. We have to retreat. We have to get the fuck out of here." And it's kind of funny that on both sides now after this, they're both going, "Oh my god, we need to retreat. We're dying over here."
Yeah.
So yeah, both parties decide that maybe it's best we stop fighting for a while, and both of them are in retreat. And while he's retreating, he's thinking, fuck, someone is going to have to explain this to the Empress. May she live forever. And that's how the chapter ends.
Shoo.
Everybody in retreat. Lots of dead people.
Quick summary for a very dead people chapter.
For a long time, what I assumed was the climax of this book, right? Is like this moment where Rand wields Calandor. He's tired, he's been injured, he's sick, and like lashes out with Calandor and just massive damage. I think, does Rand in this chapter say, okay, cool, he shouldn't be using Calandor again?
No, it's later on.
Oh, it's later on when he speaks to Cadsuane. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Stay out of my chapter,
when he
bro.
gets schooled.
I have some words on that chapter. Fucking Cadsuane. It's hard to like her. I know what her plans are. Okay, we'll talk about that later. We'll get there.
Go down a Cadsuane rabbit hole now. Let's talk about Rand and the Seanchan and the massive defeat that they took at Ebou Dar.
Yeah, look, it's hard to keep track of all these people. Like, there's so many points of view in this chapter, and these points of view are from somebody I don't know who's talking about 50 people I don't know. And then the next chapter, half of them are dead. Why? Ugh.
Yeah, all those little battles where they join the different groups that are busy running around, like Bertome. You're like, who's Bertome again? And like, who are these people that are with him? Like, there's a lot of juggling, or keeping a lot of like personnel records in your RAM, right? Like, you have to like, who are all these people again, and trying to stitch the narrative together is challenging.
And then you wake up this morning and your RAM's been cleared and you have to go and read all the chapters again. Find out who these people are. I did some Googling this morning.
Okay, nice. So, Phil, did you have anything you wanted to say about A Time for Iron?
Lightning, 1,000 bolts of lightning at a time. And lightning's pretty destructive, and when it hits the ground, it kind of like jumps like a spider and just gives everyone a zap on the side as well. That's a lot of destruction that he was abusing out of that crystal member that he had in his hand.
It's his biggest sort of area of effect spell, like his ultimate attack.
But he didn't realize his forces was in that radius.
He shot it too close. Yeah, they were all in the area of effect.
The crying, the blistering, the death, and the ill.
So did John and Adley die there, Joe?
Yeah, Adley's dead.
Yes, Adley died there. For me, this is, apart from being a battle scene and two parties taking heavy losses and retreating, I'll be very honest, not a very exciting chapter. Like, it's not nice. It's not like a
nice.
Confident winning Rand, making winning decisions and winning.
No.
It's sick Rand making stupid choices, not listening to his general, which I must say is one of the generals, I'll add in there. And then you're having to get knocked on the head by him to stop murdering his own people. So it's
so
not
Phil, you don't like the chapters where they talk, and you don't like the chapters with battle. Which chapters are the one? Which are the ones you're looking for?
Scrubbing of pots.
I mean, or battles where they win.
Yeah, I love battles where they win, and I love it when Matt wins a battle.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm so hard to please with fantasy books. Like, just write the fantasy in my wheelwell.
Yes, you're not even pleased by your own favorite fantasy books.
No, it's not that I'm displeased with the chapter. It's just not a favorite for me. It's not a feel good.
No.
Like, that's
and
no good.
It colors my perception. I've said this to death, but I'll say it again. Like the perception of the whole book, right? Again, like I mentioned earlier with Winter's Heart, you think about Perrin trudging through the snow because that's what's on the cover. Here we have Rand holding Calandor aloft on the cover of A Path of Daggers. Seanchan in the mountains. So for me, the whole book is sort of like embodied by the feeling of this chapter, which, like you said, is not a good feeling. It's Rand losing control, killing Asherman. Like he's not listening to anyone. He's almost killed a couple times.
That cover is drawn like a Mills and Boone, half shirt open, I think, and like he looks confident.
No,
That's Lord of Chaos.
He looks like
that's Lord of Chaos.
I have the book right here, and he's not holding Calandor aloft. He's just holding a normal sword.
Oh, it's just a normal sword. Okay.
You see how our memories are, eh?
Ooh.
And there's that statue on the back.
Sheotan Queen.
Yes. That's actually, I like this cover art. It's pretty cool.
It is a good one now. I also like it, wearing his crown of swords.
He's not spewing off the side of the horse on the cover. He's looking quite confident.
A dark chapter, a dark stretch of chapters, a bleak book in general, right? Like the weather turning shit, and then like these battles, and Rand also going down a dark path. Shitting on Narishma for taking too long, even though Rand sent him to like a death trap, and like telling him, if you tell anyone about this, I'll kill you. Like Rand really just not in a good space. Okay, well, I've got a bunch of teeny little morsels that I'd like to point to.
No doubt.
Okay, let's dive straight in. The shine of the Raken is somewhat taken away when the one guy is observing them and he talks about their movement on the ground as a waddle.
Yeah.
That's a waddle over
giant dinosaur ducks.
That's when you shoot them, when they're waddling about on the ground.
Exactly.
The Altaran soldiers are actually proud of their markings. We've been taken into the Seanchan army, but these markings are to signify irregulars of questionable loyalty to the Seanchan. So they're like, oh yeah, here's your colors, but the other Seanchan soldiers know, don't rely on these guys to have your back. They're new. Yeah. Which is probably something they put on any newly assimilated lands, any new country or anything that they've taken over. They put on the question mark armor without putting a question mark on them, just putting a marking that they recognize. We see here plural forms of Suldam and Damane. No S's on either of them.
Mark's never going to let that one die.
I'm letting it die now. You see here how the traveling Ashaman are confusing the Seanchan, who believe the sightings are far too far apart for the troops to be spotted more than once. So they can't be the same troops spotting. So they think there's at least 90,000 soldiers in the mountains, almost double what the Seanchan can muster, which, Joe, like you said, means they have around 50,000. It's actually only 6,000 soldiers in the Ashaman. It is such a small force compared to like Rand's like 100,000+ armies of Aiel and stuff.
Yeah.
It's basically the Ashaman doing the work though as well, right? Like it's not Ionella and Islil and Bertome's troops that are like making dents in the Seanchan. If anything, they're just catching the arrows while the Ashaman rain
they
death
just there to
on
die.
everyone else. Then on Liandrin and Alwyn, I just want to remind you about Alwyn. Alwyn she was a Suldam, and she is the one that found Rena and Seta in Egwene's room in the kennels. So after Egwene is freed by Nynaeve and co, they leave Rena and Seta there. Alwyn is the Suldam that finds them, and she goes to Suroth with this, like, it turns out the Suldam can also be collared. And Suroth raises Alwyn to Sojin and makes her voice as reward and to keep her lips shut. Exactly, Joe. To keep her from talking. So the commander in the tent, whatever his name, Keshav Maharaj. No, that's
an actual exponent.
His similarly named Seanchan leader notes that it's strange to see the voice of one of the True Blood carry a bracelet and a dam with a damane attached to it. Like the voice, a Sojin doesn't usually have a damane at their beck and call. So this Alwyn situation is slightly odd. It's not the norm. And then a quick little insight into the Seanchan idea of channelers. They think that these quote-unquote Marath Damane are free to run around and kill and enslave as they desire, as if that's what the Aes Sedai are doing. Their solution to this is to enslave them first, right? Like it's just the irony is... striking.
I see your slavery and raise you more slavery. Yes.
Now, Joe, your explanation of Liandrin not actually being collared, as I remembered, explains why she is maybe still being so openly resistant. Like she's scowling openly and stuff. It's because she's not attached to a dam, which can inflict massive... they break those damane pretty quickly with the Adam, and she's certainly not broken.
Yeah. Rima is on the ground trembling. Like face, like flat.
Yes.
The face in the dirt trembling, and Liandrin's giving scowls to people.
She's scowling, yeah.
Yeah.
Even this guy notes her like doll-like features, when you read that, you're like, it's Liandrin. And then
I know that
and then
bitch.
they name her. Yeah. Also interesting how the Seanchan prophecies of the dragon mention him serving the crystal throne. They think that the Randland prophecies are corrupted for omitting that detail. Their prophecies are actually called the Essenic cycle. Like they've got their own set of prophecies, and in it mentions Rand kneeling to the crystal throne. Rand does kneel to the Empress at some point when he tries to get Tuon and the Seanchan to fight in the last battle. I think he does kneel to her, and they often also refer to Tuon as, sort of a metaphor for the crystal throne. Like when they talk about kneeling to the crystal throne, they mean to the Empress and to the Seanchan Empire and everything. So their prophecy is true. Like Rand does kneel to a form of the crystal throne in Tuon, but not in the way, obviously, that they expect, as if like Tuon is going to win the last battle. Because in their prophecies, I think they interpret it as the Seanchan Empress is going to beat the Dark One by sending the Dragon Reborn against him. I had a bit of a chuckle at Deshiva, who nearly falls off the horse twice while trying to mount it. It's because, again, like Agenor coming from the Age of Legends, he's used to Jokars and, all kinds of fancy machinery. Can't ride a horse, almost falls off twice. And then someone, I think it was Bashir or someone quotes, "No plan of battle survives first contact," which is reminiscent of everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, which I think, Willie, you've also said on this podcast.
Mike Tyson.
Yep. What else here? Oh, there's a little section here where Gedwin and Wiramon are huddled together. And Gedwin, as Bertome approaches them, Gedwin says to Wiramon, I won't take more risk unless I get the order directly from the lips of, and then he's interrupted. That could be anyone. That could be Rand, talking about taking risks in this battle. But if Wiramon and Gedwin are both Dark Friends, they might be known to each other as Dark Friends, and he might be talking about taking risks unless he gets it from the lips of Tahim, Demondred, another Forsaken. Yeah. Bertome seems at least slightly trustworthy. Despite being Colivier's cousin, he survives the series. Wiramon has a weird interaction with him where he's like, I'm sure Rand will strangle you as well, just like he did your cousin, sort of thing. And Bertome goes away from that conversation going, what was he trying to achieve there? And I also don't know. If any of our listeners know, what the fuck is Wiramon trying to imply to Bertome?
Don't try and analyze Wiramon.
I think I have a solution. I think that he thought that Bertome overheard them, that he heard too much, and he's trying to deflect and try and like anger him and make him angry about like teasing him about his cousin and whatnot, just so that he'll forget what they were. Because
he has a sudden change of demeanor.
Yeah.
And then lays in, because he's all put out by Gedwin, and then he lays into Bertome with almost like a glee on his face.
Also, it's Wiramon, who's a fucking moron, so could be nothing at all.
That's my theory, and that's what I'll stick to.
Something I really liked is one of the Seanchan commanders acknowledges like he didn't think that these crossbowmen in the blue tabards were going to be of any kind of danger to them because they've got no pike to hide against, but they never come out of the shadows and stuff. I'm like, haha, a Seanchan general recognizing Matt's idea that he shared with Davram Bashir and that they sort of concocted up between them, which is really cool. Bashir makes a comment that he'd seen more dead in this battle than any other since Blood Snow, which was the final battle outside of Tavalon in the Aiel War, where like 4 clans of Aiel were fighting, like a whole bunch of armies.
10 nations, I think.
The 10 nations, yes.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people have died here. And I just made the comment here about Adley forced to channel in battle and killing some of his own men in the process, which is just a little sort of preparation, a little bit of foreshadowing for what Rand is about to do. Yes.
Yeah.
Rand is losing it when he says to Bashir that the Forsaken could tell the enemy commander that facing the Dragon Reborn is a bad idea. And he goes, right, Flynn, Deshiva? And Flynn nods reluctantly, and Deshiva flinches. Being one of the Forsaken that has died in Rand's presence, he's like, oh, yes, it's true. God damn it. Don't say Forsaken. The jig is up.
Busted.
But that is it. That's it for me.
All right. No, look, yeah, it was a good chapter. You got to keep your head on your shoulders reading this chapter. But hey, it's not a bad one.
I feel like it often happens when there's like a big showdown and a lot of players. This method of flicking between the points of view is often used. I mean, it actually gets you to do things like kill people off screen because it gives you the idea of like flitting around through the battle, and obviously you can't see everything at once, so it's convenient. Like RJ doesn't have to go explain exactly how every single Seanchan commander that you're
Yeah,
introduced to
the
dies.
thing is, you can't have this person just be, oh, there's this guy dead. He's got to have a little bit of a side story. It's like an NPC with a 10-line intro, and then he's dead. So it's understand why in the battle scenes this is being used. It makes a lot of sense. I don't mind it. I just like to not, in the beginning, even focus on who they are. Just go through
Until
it,
they've
and I'm like,
proven that they're going to
yep,
survive.
dead. At
the end of the chapter, I'll go Google who's left.
Especially knowing how this is going to go, right? You're like, oh, I'm not going to bother like committing any of this to memory. There's going to be many casualties, probably these guys.
Again, don't start making notes when you haven't read the chapter yet, because your notes change dramatically. Like, oh, I'm going to be quite clever about this guy. Oh, he just dies.
Okay. Or vice versa, like we had with Furyk, it's like, oh, and he's also just going to die.
Important.
No, actually, he's
weight.
around a lot.
Till the last battle. I just want to nerd out a little bit more and go on like a little tangent about lightning. It just reminded me about Rand using lightning and killing his own troops. And I said, chain lightning. Heroes of Might and Magic 3. You have a chain lightning spell. And the more powered up you get, the more you can hit. And it very often... You would kill somebody and you could hit 5 guys with chain lightning once you've got like Grandmaster Air Magic or something. And then you strike the first guy and you kill 4 of their guys, and then the 5th guy is your guy because it has to hit someone who's
oh no
on the 5th one. And multiple times you have to take the risk because you can take all of these guys out, but one of your troops is going to get hit, and you do it anyway. Just like fuck it. So I feel like
you are Randolph.
There was no strategy involved in this chain lightning. This was error lightning.
That's the hero's name, the blue guy.
Okay.
Solmir.
Okay.
He comes with chain lightning. So that's Rand in Heroes of Might and Magic 3 in this scene.
What Rand says here is Bashir is telling him this Seanchan general knows what we're doing. He wants us to, he's luring us into trap. He wants us to attack. We can't surprise him. And then Rand says, let's see if he's surprised by the dragon reborn wielding Kalandor. And then Rand surprises himself with a bit of friendly fire as well. Everyone was surprised.
Exactly. And the Seanchan commander was dead. He wasn't surprised by anything.
Okay. Then we can move along to chapter 25, called An Unwelcome Return. A much more welcome return is the return of a Willie chapter summary.
Oh, yes, that is true. I thought you were going to say unwelcome return. Willie's back with this black heart and these black evil people.
There are enough black hearts in this chapter that I won't lump you in with it.
All black hearts. All right, we are in the point of view of Elaida. Long may she wear the stole. In the tower.
The puppet Amerlin, serving your great lord.
Puppet Amerlin. And as normal, she's sitting at a desk fondling her toys. And facing 6 sisters. Now, I'm going to quickly just ramble off the names of these sisters because I don't know them and I don't know if they... And no, I did not research them because it's just too much. Duhara, Valina, Sivan, Andaya, Rubinda, and Sador. Anyway,
that's not rattling,
sort of
that's stumbling.
I'll give you some flavor, Vil. 3 of them are Black Ajah. Duhara, Valina, and Sadore are all Black Ajah.
I'll make little notes on that one. See, you keep tab at my crew. They discussing the ter'angreal that apparently are causing women who can challenge to be controlled and not being able to channel, and how this is an impossibility. And if it is true, then there cannot be more than 3 of these things. No way whatsoever. And then the Brown sister starts talking about, well, you do know that we never knew that there was any other way to shield women, but then out comes Forkroot. Now we all know about Forkroot. So they move on to joking about, what's next? Sister discovering how to make terangrial. Ha 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 ha. No one's ever had that talent, capital T, in 3,000 years or however long. Elaida shudders of the idea that Ashaman could learn to travel. Like, what? Imagine that happened. I'm like, you,
It's happening right
so
now.
far behind.
Surprise.
You need to get out of your tower and go and see the world a bit. Stop building hotels and start seeing the world. The discussion leads to the rebel Aes Sedai, who are now no longer a threat because they bog down in the snow, and we won't see them till the next summer, however long that may be. And then the White Sister wants to excuse herself, who is Valina. She doesn't have time for all this discussion now. She's got Ajah business to attend to, but Elaida kind of reprimands and says, ooh, Ajah business is trumped by the tower business. And through the little back story falls in that two sisters have since been stripped of their titles, and there's been many strappings and many penances handed out to sisters, whether they be sitters, doesn't matter. It's Elaida giving everyone her wrath. They are excused, and before they could bolt out, enters Alviarin. Dun, dun, dun. Now, Alviarin has been out of play for 2 weeks. No one saw her leave. No one saw anything. And Elaida started getting this little hope inside her that she's dead, and in fact started penning like a declaration, a decree that, okay, the keeper might be missing or assassinated or choked on a chicken bone or something. But the parchment is very quickly snatched up by Alviarin from the sister that was carrying it, Sedora, and she's instructed to hand it over. And then they are excused, and Alviarin reads through this and it's like, oh, haha, that's a joke. That won't do. That won't do. Crumbles it up, chucks it in the corner, like, ooh, I shouldn't have left the seal with you. Naughty, naughty, writing letters. Then she walks up to Elaida and she gives her a PK. We've discussed PK before. A slap across the face that her ears are ringing and she sees flecks, but she holds her composure. She doesn't want to show that slap rattled her. But if she was on her feet, she would have stumbled, and the guy counting would have waved his arms in the way they waved to the aeroplane to cut the engines off now. So Elaida then can only think that her only sort of, I think, way out of all of this is the task that she gave to Seanchan. But there's nothing yet. Now, there's some reflection around Tovane that has leading 50 other sisters and 200 guardsmen against the Black Tower. And because, all of this goes off the back of Elaida's own foretellings. But she thinks and I think this is what's happening, she thinks because she is the Amyrlin now, those things are going to happen under the Amyrlin. And I think the Amyrlin is actually Egwene, that the majority of these things will happen. And especially about Rand fearing her anger. But Rand will only ever fear certain people, Egwene being his childhood sweetheart, perhaps. Any which way. Her quote is, "The Black Tower will be rent in blood and sisters will walk the grounds," which is 100% correct. There will be blood and there will be sisters on the grounds, but it ain't in the storyline or your narrative that you have. Alviarin then slaps a nice parchment down in front of her. Now, again, a lot of this is happening in our poor Elaida's head. while Alviarin berates her, tells her she's been a busy bee, shouldn't been a busy bee. I'm taking your seal with me. And then, as I said, slap down the parchment and tells her to sign. And she starts reading it. She starts already like knotting up and thinking, oh my gosh, what the heck? A little giveaway there to the end. She wants to write in triumph in the light, or the glory, but to add in the light, because it was written by Alviarin. She negated the light bit because she's a dark friend. Now, this is all in an acknowledgement of Rand being the Dragon Reborn, Rand being under the protection of the Tower, and Elaida then says, "Well, this might not really work. I mean, it's just going to deter some of his followers, but it's never any plan that she can even fathom that's being played out in this this move by Alviarin." Alviarin then tells her to remember Catholicism.
Catholicism?
What's yes?
Unlikely.
Schooling. No, what's it? Anyway, her teachings, and then makes her re-say the things, including down to she will be obedient to Alviarin. Alviarin then makes a sign. She signs. She heads to the door, Alviarin, then with the signed parchment, and tells Elaida that she will stay and she will be there later when she returns. And Elaida obviously wanted to go check on the building progress of a fortress castle. And it's like, when, what? And she's like, stay, wait. So yes, she's in a bit of a pickle. Alviarin is gone. So while Elaida's there, she plays with the blue roses, only to think about throttling Alviarin around the neck. Now, can she think about murdering a sister?
Absolutely. She can stab one, just not with the power.
Okay. She can be a murderer. Then she realizes the rarest of rose, the blue rose, has now been broken, and she's basically throttled the roses to death. The knock went unheard, and Sylviana enters and said that she's come for a penance. Now, just past Alviarin in the hallways sent there, and she had to make up something on the fly, I reckon. I don't understand that, but it's a half an hour, and we switch over to Alviarin's point of view, who meets a woman in the hallways and then gets told, I never gave you permission to beat Elaida. And Alviarin shits herself, because she knows this is not just any old woman wandering the hallways. It is Mesaana, and she drops to the ground and kisses feet and grovels as she should. She exclaims that, yes, everything is in action. The decree is actually already left of Rand's. Like before even it was signed.
Before Elaida signed it, she'd already sent out copies. Yeah.
Final little things. Like, now I've already sent it with hundreds of couriers. Like, no pigeons. We know that don't work very well.
This is not playing out in a hallway, though, right? Like,
that's my question.
I was in a hallway of a room somewhere in the tower.
Room. Yes.
A room in the tower. Hallways lead to rooms.
Sometimes they're hallways.
They often
rooms.
do. Yeah.
Mesaana then tells Alviarin that although you've done well in creating this animosity between the Ajahs, the heads of the Ajahs are still accidentally meeting, and there's still talking going on, which leads Alviarin to start suspecting that, okay, Mesaana is actually in the tower, and she makes mental notes of what to look for, because Alviarin isn't a dumb person.
No,
she's not challenged in that respect like Elaida is. And then also a mention was made about it would have been easier if Galena was still there, being the head of the red/black Ajah, but unfortunately, we know what her fate was. And then that's the end of that chapter. Very quick and short one. And painful one
I
for
recall
Elaida.
it was a 20-minute Kindle chapter.
Yeah, the quickie.
The foretelling that Elaida is sort of hanging her hopes on was, the White Tower will be whole again, except for remnants cast out and scorned, whole and stronger than ever. Rand Althor will face the Amelin seat and know her anger. The Black Tower will be rent in blood and fire, and sisters will walk its grounds. This I foretell. I mean,
Spot
doesn't
on.
all fit what we know. Yeah. She just leapt to conclusions about everything being about herself and knowing her anger and everything. She just inserted herself in that, and it's blinded her completely.
Yeah, Billy, I think the way I read that Sylviana coming into the office is that Alviarin left and she said, oh, by the way, the Amerlin wants to have a penance. You need to go to her and sort her out, basically. It's like a punishment.
Sylviana is the mistress of novices. She's
also
the one
a
with the
novice?
cane.
Okay. All right.
I don't know, Joe. I'll look it up quickly, but you might be thinking of Old Sheriam.
I had the wrong
Can't trust the mistress of the
impression
novice
there that Sylviana was sent for a penance, not to
No,
hand out a penance.
She just
She's
met
the
her
one that-
outside and said, hey, go and sort out
She
the
gives-
Amerlin. She needs a spanking.
She gives the hidings. She is Red Ajah, not Black Ajah.
Okay.
There we go. All right, well, that makes a lot more sense. But all in all, this chapter for me really is just the plans of the Dark Friends has infiltrated, really.
Is it in this one where Alviarin spots a little bit of Mesaana's dress come out from behind the Mask of Mirrors, and it's got like a coppery bronzy color to it, or something like that?
Very bronzy color with some black embroidery.
Now she knows that. Yeah, this is what she's going to be looking out for, right? Like, okay, she's in the tower. She knows what's happening here. See a bit of a
Playing a
dress.
dangerous game, eh?
Super dangerous.
She's going to try and out the Forsaken. Good luck. Wish you all the best.
Joe, did you have anything else like you wanted to call out, discuss? I've got a smattering of tidbits here.
No, I don't. I would like to hear your tiddy biddies.
Itty,
That
itty
didn't come out
bitties. There's a reference here again to that clock that was commissioned by Kamail, one of the weakest Amelins ever. Like, it's the one that depicts like the dragon reborn, like bowing to the Aes Sedai and Shadowspawn fleeing and stuff. And Elaida sort of put it up as this inspiration, like, yeah, she's going to reclaim, the glory that it was intended for. But it's just ironic that there's this massive like symbol of failure looming in her study, like just, signaling her repeated failures as a human and Amelin.
Just human failures in general.
Yes. The Aes Sedai are so frustratingly short-sighted and closed-minded. Elaida thinks that if no sister had rediscovered how to make a Tarangril in 3,000 years, nobody ever would. Fact. No one's ever going to do it again.
No, there's no point in even thinking about it further. End of discussion. Like, Jesus.
And Villy, you mentioned this, but like I laughed when I read like the rebels are caught by the snow in Mirandy. No, they could be here right now if they wanted to. They're just resting their army to lay siege to your tower.
And they will be here within a second.
Yes. A couple
with
yards.
Their traveling powers. And that's why nobody saw Alviarin leave, because Mesaana taught her traveling last.
She did.
She went, oh, traveling. I'm out of here. Instantaneously left. I wonder if we find out where she is. Moritz, you've read ahead, but I don't suppose that far. Where she went for 2 weeks. Alviarin.
Oh, yeah. Don't know.
You just have to raffo.
I guess so.
Okay.
The Aes Sedai are talking about Tyr will be taken care of when they find Darlin Cisnera, and Cairhien when they find Torum Righton and Caroline Damodred. Surprise, Caroline and Darlin are already shacking up in Cairhien, in Lady Arelyn's palace. And Torum Righton is a twat and will be killed by Lan pretty soon, in Book 9. They also say that Rand holds the crown in Ilion, but that is being worked on. I assume that is being worked on because they have possession of Matan Stepanios, the actual king of Ilion, and at some point, if they want to destabilize Rand in Ilion, they can produce Stepanios and go, look, here's the actual king. He's still alive. He's still the king. You're not the king, Rand, and sort of like mess with his plans that way, but that's all going to come to nothing.
Very awkward position to be put in for poor Mattis. Like, it's like getting dragged to be thrown at the Dragon Reborn's feet. Like, here's the king. He should be king.
Still rolled up in the rug that he was put on the ship in. One of those Aes Sedai that I said is Black Ajah is Velina, and when Alviarin walks in, she flinches. Velina flinches at Alviarin. So they're both originally from the White Ajah, but they are now both Black Ajah, and they're both on the Supreme Council. So Velina knows Alviarin. When she sees her, she flinches. Even like the Black Ajah sisters are wary of Alviarin, which is pretty hectic. Seanchan is working away, but not as instructed by Elaida. Elaida tried to get Seanchan to, investigate traitors, and we read about that now, Havel. But Seanchan interpreted it as searching for Black Ajah members, but both those avenues would lead to Alviarin as well. So Elaida's wish is at least halfway closer to being fulfilled. And then my last comment was just Alviarin's like boundless ambition, actually thinking of like, ooh, this is information I could use against this Forsaken that's hiding in the tower. Just fucking check yourself before you wreck yourself, Alviarin.
You gotta give it to her. I mean, she's playing a very ambitious game.
I've said that before as well.
The Forsaken are only Aes Sedai that's been promoted. So there's nothing that, and maybe she's like, well, if I can out one of them, if I could take one down, maybe I can get taken up. Maybe I become nameless.
That's absolutely what they're thinking, right? Like all of these dark friends.
And encouraged by the Dark One. Like this is what he likes. Yeah.
Competition.
Yeah. Take out these guys. I'm tired of them. I've been saving their asses for 3,000 years and keeping them alive. Like, some fresh conversation would be good in the pit of doom.
For millennia. I'm tired of listening to them. If I can kill them already.
Okie dokie. That brings us then to chapter 26 called The Extra Bit. Can you do an extra bit of summarizing, please, Willie?
Yes, I will continue the extra bit. When I read it first, I thought like, okay, cool. Someone takes a spare bit for their horse for a ride. So that,
sure.
Horse is also very prominent in this book. I don't know. But no, it's not the extra bit. There's other bits that's going to be filled in here. We're in the point of view of Seanchan, who is somewhere in the tower. And
she's somewhere. Yeah, that's right.
They're in the tower, but the tower seems to be like a little diggy hole fortress. There are many underground layers that they've kind of left. Like maybe they just short on hands to occupy all the levels. But this is now going really deep down.
Just on that, thinking. A lot of the rebels obviously are not there. So yes, there are far fewer people in the tower. And also a lot of the sisters are just shit scared. Seanchan thinks to herself here how comfortable and safe her rooms are. Like there's so much undercurrent happening that the sisters actually don't feel safe and stick to their rooms rather than walking the hallways. So the tower, yes, is absolutely a fucking minefield at the moment. Albeit a
Billy, are you referring to just the catacombs specifically being unexplored for hundreds of years, or?
Yeah, we'll get to that. But even the hallways are quite stark at the moment. Seanchan is thinking of her warm, safe room that she'd much rather be in at this point in time. But it's the late hours and there's things to do. She passes past Talene and has a reflection around that they were actually once friends. But now everyone is treating everyone as a enemy, and there's not discussion. There's no hand like hi. There's just glancing at each other like, are you going to throw a lightning bolt at me? Should I be defending myself right now? Anyway, now she's thinking to herself like, what and why is she doing this with Parava? But the plan has been forged. And she makes her way to find Zera, who is also a white sister. And Seanchan being a sitter, this would not be a difficult thing to do. And she tells her that, come along, you need to come with me. And they start making their way through the hallways and down into the depths of the tower. Now, it's not a problem, as I mentioned, because of her authority, but now they're going to the levels where the accepted gets go through the arches, the accepted test, and now they're going below that. And careful notice being made that it doesn't appear that anyone's been there for centuries. Like every step has got a little puff of dust. The cleaners have forgotten, like that's gone off the cleaning maps now. They eventually, with now Zoraine, it's like not feeling unsafe. I mean, she is with the head of her Ajah, and this could be very much Ajah business. But eventually it starts questioning, hey, and then it's like, no, we're here. Opens the door, a bit of a squeak, but not much. But the rusty hinges, it should have squeaked a lot more. Dead giveaway, the door's been opened before. And then in the room, and there is Barava sat down behind a table. Now this was their own undoing by having to bring furniture down to that room because someone had spotted them. They thought they were not spotted, but they were seen colluding. And a little detail about the room: it's been cleaned, it's not as dusty. There's 3 stools, benches, and a table, and Parava sat down on the other end and lights up the room with a power. And now there's a lot more light because previously Seanchan was just having a little power torch to guide their way. Now Zara is confronted with the question straight up whether she's a Black Ajah. And she is completely shocked by this, like, to the point of anger, because her parents, if I've got it right, were murdered by dark friends.
That's Pavaras.
And a whole family.
Oh, Pavaras. Yeah, whole family.
That's why Seanchan went to her to help her with the search, because she knew she's got a particular hatred for dark friends because her whole family.
And they've been best buddies for like
they were
1,000 years, or however old they are.
Yeah, very long
100
time.
years.
But she doesn't take this accusation well at all. And at the request of Seanchan to actually don't storm out, sit. We'll get to the point here. As when she sits down, she's confronted with an oath rod. I don't know if it's the oath rod. I think it's an oath rod.
That's the one.
I think it's the. Yeah.
I
think the tower only has one.
There's only one. There's only one in the tower. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, the ivory rod has then been whipped out there, and then she is asked to swear the 3 oaths again, and Seanchan on this side then decides, okay, look, I will do this again because I'll show you, to put some ease into Zara. She takes the 3 oaths again and then swears that she's not a dark friend on the oath rod. And then Zara's like, I will do that right away. And they're like, no, we want a different oath. We want an oath that you will obey us both. And she's like, well, this is really not standard. And like, look, the oath rod can place an oath and remove an oath. We've tested it, which comes to like a great shock to her. Like, what? You broke your oaths? And there was a little bit of previous discussion how they laughed, and when they did it, it was quite painful. But they also had a bit of a joke of being able to lie for the first time in a very long time. It's like, you have a beard. Ha ha ha. They made silly jokes.
And that's how they use it.
That's how they use it to make
beard.
silly jokes. But anyway, the oaths were restored because none of these women are dark friends. But she then agrees and says, okay, she takes the oath, it settles in, and she's like, well, ask me now. Like, ask me, like, get it. And eventually it comes up like, are you dark friend? She's like, no, I'm not Black Ajah. like a definite no. It's like, now remove this bloody oath off me. But Bavara has got other ideas, because the suspicions that came about was because she said she came from the north. However, her horse saddle had some seeds attached to it that can only come from the south. They question her, and again, she tells the truth. I came from the north. I came down the river. Where's my map? Harlan, whatever. And then she said, but Seanchan is a little bit smart on the questioning, but knowing Aes Sedai tricks, she's not going to get trickstered by this. And she said, okay, which way did you go round? And then she blows out, she went the long way around from the south and then down from the north. Clever plan so that they could maintain a story. However, then the whole floodgates open and she's from Salidar. And then now, obviously, Pavara's not stoked about this because she is a red and they are the rebels and they are the bad. Elaida good, they bad. That whole thing goes down. Then she's asked why are they then, and she says to spread the word about Logain being placed by the Red Ajah. That whole kettle of fish. Whether it's true or not, this is one of Swan's insertions. It's a lie, but they don't know. Therefore, for her, it's true. So for her, it's the truth.
Yeah.
And Pavara's like, that is a straight out lie, and tells her, you will admit that this is a lie. And then there's massive conflict of oaths right then. She's can't breathe, can't talk, and she ain't sharp enough. Realize it. She's like, no, and this helps. I feel Zera too, that she realized no, she really believes that's true, and then instructs Bavara hey man, you got to tell her that's okay. You don't have to lie. You have to say that. It's not going to have to come from me. And then she plays with time a little bit. It's like Pavara that is.
She does.
Yeah, but she's a rebel. Maybe she should,
die.
Choke to die.
Bavara.
She's being a real red about it.
Yeah.
She takes the time though, but then okay. And I raised the question there, is this just okay? In having sworn the oaths, but the oaths don't say you can't kill other sisters. I suppose you can't use the power as a weapon.
Yeah.
But is it using the power as a weapon when you use the power to bind someone to an oath?
She's using her words.
Kill them. I suppose. Anyway, there is more questions then about how many, and there's 10 of them, as we know, and she spills all the names along with a lot of tears.
Everyone's busted. One fell swoop.
One foul swoop. Now, Pavara is then all right, you're going to be set to trial as a rebel for treason. But Seanchan again says, hey, is she? Because we have someone tied to an oath now that we know is not a dark friend or a Black Ajah. And yes, she may be a rebel, but this is useful. Not, and again, it's one of her own. It's another white sister. Yeah. So I suppose there's some motherly empathy that is coming in there. Other than being part of the rebels that don't like Elaida, that want to dispose Elaida, she's not bad. So the Pavara eventually agrees to this, and they send Seanchan off and say, right, as there's 2 of each, except for, I think it was the Blue Ajah and another Ajah, there was to go and fetch the other White Ajah sister, Berenail, because she'll find a way, bring over. We're going to do the same thing now with her. So the 2 of them sit around the table, that being Pavara and Seanchan, talking on about their plans, and not for a while. and then there's a creak at the door, and they both very quickly, because I mean no one's supposed to be down there, embrace Saidar and like grab the oath rod quickly and sort of down into the skirt or the dress, and in comes Siren, Yukiri, Talene, and Ducine. And they are now we've got 6 sisters in the room representing all 60 Ajahs. That is sort of and they're like, hey, we've been keeping tabs on you. Now, these 4 sisters are all bit rebellish in their ways. And they go through a few things. Ducine, for instance, tried to run away from the tower 3 times. Didn't get very far, but still 3 attempts count. Talene has been the most punished Aes Sedai in the tower in terms of penances that they can remember through a time as a novice and all of it. Yukiri is always the last one of the Grey Sisters that will actually agree to something the Grey Sisters, like she will kick against she'll swim against the current often, and Siren has got quite the temper on her. Now, they ignore the fact that the 2 of them are holding Saidar, and there's a discussion about this. And as the 2 of them get up, there's a fumble as they both try to hide the oath rod, and out falls the oath rod. And they're like, what are you doing here? Are you busy just making new sisters? Like, what's happening with the oath rod in a dark room? And then Siren, I think it was first, picks up the oath rod and then decides to just re-swear the oaths again on the oath rod, also adding in that she's not Black Ajah. And then this gets a ball rolling. Yukiri does the same thing. Ducine does the same thing. And then Talene gets taken aback.
Very squirrely.
Ferrety is the words, and there's
Squirrels are cute.
She's
Ferrets,
like, this is nonsense. I'm not doing this. And Yukiri is like, you're not going anywhere. What's up with this? Like, this ain't good. And then at that time, Seanchan is seen with white knuckles gripping her knife, and we break away from that tense scene that ends there. We jump quickly to someone we've talked about a bit earlier, Tovane Gazelle. Or Gazelle, however you want to see it. Now,
Gazelle.
she's the red Gazelle. No, the Gazelle's got a double L-E. Gazelle. Anyway.
Gazelle.
Our red sister that is on a horse in some snow. They are, as we know, heading to their task of bringing glory to the White Tower and flattening the Black Tower, because there can only be 3 men that can channel over there. This will be an easy task for 50 sisters and 200 swordsmen. When a tall, dark man pulls out of the forest on his horse, and he tells her, don't run. And she realized she's shielded, and she's like, okay, well, this man may have shielded me, but you guys link up. He's shielded me. And to the other sisters, who then also say, problem. We're also
shielded.
And then she's like, okay, well, if the stories are true, men can't channel without line of sight. So at my word, you bolt to break the line of sight, and then we protect our guardsmen, swordsmen that's with us. And the instruction is given for the guardsmen to fight, and they make a break for the trees, but she gets, like straight armed off a horse by a
clothesline.
Clothesline. around the waist and stays suspended in the air and is still shielded. So Theory faltered quite quickly. And tall, dark, handsome man, rough but still handsome, comes up to old Red Sister there and tries to physically get her down. And she is squealing like a Christmas pig that's been caught by the hind leg. And he tells her, like, just settle down, like, come on now. And then says, you know what, sorry, this is how we do it. He takes her and he kisses her, and she becomes a honey pot, a boiling honey pot, a harp string, ever tense and taut harp string, a crystal glass, ringing with vibration. A lot of talk of vibration and ringing and strings and tautness. And then all of a sudden it all shatters and she yelps out,
Go for it, Billy.
Please simulate for us a female orgasm.
Please, Billy. Please
yes,
put this onto
I have so many
recording.
questions about what happened there. I did write here, did Tervain bust a nut? And then she asks, who are you? Out of her panting and now not scared, also not wanting to attack and kill point of view. And one of the younger men who maybe would never need to shave more than twice a week comes up and said, oh Logain, Mahale's not going to be happy with you taking a second one. And he's not even happy with us doing it at all. And Logain's like, well, if it's up to him, I'd be under the ground or digging turnips with the new people anyway. So that doesn't really matter. And then she realizes and cries into his very muscular chest, but doesn't resist him and asks, what did you do to me? And that's the end of that chapter.
Yeah, he says to her, I could have done without the extra bit.
What?
The name of the chapter.
Tongue?
So
The extra bit.
there was an extra bit, the extra oath that Zera had to take. And then in this one, what do you guys think the extra bit is?
Compulsion.
Ding, ding, ding. Points for Willie. There is a low-level form of compulsion involved with the male to female bond.
Yeah. I figured, because
She
she's just
doesn't-
immediately timid. Like,
Timid,
and eager to please.
eager to please, and she does not, at the instruction, this is a red sister of a man that has
but she likes
just
men.
power forced himself on her.
She does. She speaks about all these young, pretty boys that she likes. That's
Handsome,
why she
yeah.
mentions about the shaving. Like, that guy was more her type, not Logain. She normally wouldn't go
Right.
for him. So,
Because
odd for a red sister.
Tovin was exiled after the vileness.
Yeah.
She was part of the vileness. She was setting men up to be killed, or straight up killing men or gentling them outside of Tower law. She even thinks to herself that there is still some talk that the Black Ajah were involved with the vileness, but she wouldn't put up with that kind of talk. So she was a red that was manipulated by the Black Ajah into performing acts of the vileness. So she has a history, obviously being a red, but like has a history of actively being out in the field and dealing with men that can channel. That's why she has, or she thinks she knows everything about men that can channel, but obviously doesn't.
So yeah, that all happened. Like,
Sure did.
I thought it was funny that Pavara and Ciane, or whatever how you pronounce that name, have been searching for Black Ajah for like 2 weeks now. I think it is, like,
Something
actively
like
there. They have a little spot downstairs and everything, and have not found one until now. When we've done the numbers, and like 2/3 of
Just punch them around.
well, technically,
Like, yeah.
they didn't find a Black Ajah.
Yeah,
the Black Ajah found them,
Yes.
and then they didn't expect to find an oath rod in the room, and you know, 1 out of 6 not willing to swear or re-swear some oaths, which.
But this is the first. Zero is the first Aes Sedai that they've pulled into this room to swear on this oath rod, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it?
I think so.
Yes.
It would have taken them time to find the room, to like furnish it and clean it up, get access to the oath rod, set themselves up to start this process. But you're right, Joe, because in the beginning of the chapter, Sienna is thinking to herself. She walks past Talene in the hallways. She's like, "Oh, they used to be friends. It's too late now to approach Talene to be part of the hunt for the Black Ajah." But she is Black Ajah. If she had tried to approach her to help with the hunt, she actually would have been caught out. So she dodged a bullet there. But you're right, like it's like 20% of the tower is Black Ajah.
And at this point, with so many rebels outside of the tower, that 20% might be 40 or 50% of the people in there.
Yes. Like we said earlier, when Elaida's sitting in the study with six sisters with her, 3 of them are Black Ajah, and then Alviarin walks in the room.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's 4 Black Ajah
majority.
sisters. Yes.
And Mesaana. Like, what if they had pulled in Mesaana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be a bad day for all of them if that would happen. But just to go back on the interaction with Logain there, he instructs her that she will not, and the shield is left off her. She's not shielded anymore. And he instructs her that she will not channel unless he tells her that she can.
Yeah.
And there's no urge to fight it. There's no urge.
Yeah.
Like she's just now bubbling honey in
the
his
prologue.
arms.
In the prologue of Winter's Heart, you read a chapter from her point of view. She's the one that sees Elaine and Birgitte come, and she describes Birgitte as being dressed in Kandori clothes. But she wakes up in the morning, she heats up her bowl of water and everything. She can channel, but only for menial tasks. So it's like compulsion enough for them to be very specific in their commands, and they have to obey. I mean, we've actually seen some of the sisters refer to, you could compel your warder to do something, you know, like in the warder bond, there's also a mechanism for them through which to compel the men, but the bond is slightly different from male to female, where it's actually part of it. And the Ashaman that figured it out originally used it to bond their wives.
His wife.
And the bond is actually a lot, I shouldn't say stronger, but they can sense the intricacies of their significant other, their wives' sort of physical being or well-being over a much greater distance than the Aes Sedai can sense of their warders. So it's a similar thing, but it is slightly different. And apparently, even the bond between first sisters when they go through the ceremony with the wise ones in the Aiel is also done with Saidar, and is also a version of the water bond. There's an actual bond. You have a vague sense of where the other person is and that sort of stuff as well. So there's like at least 3 different types of bonds that we see.
My question here. If Logain bonded her, can she bond him? Can there be a double bond?
There can. And later in the story, Pavara also comes to the Black Tower. She and Androl bond each other. She bonds him first, and out of like, he retaliates and bonds her back. And the 2 of them develop a telepathic link. They can actually communicate with their thoughts because they've bonded each other. It's the only couple that you read about. I could be wrong, but it's certainly from, they discover it together while they're at the Black Tower together. I don't know if you remember Androl. He's a Black Ajah, an Ashaman who is not very powerful, but for some reason can create massive gateways. Like that's his special talent. And he can he starts doing it for menial, like he can pour, create a little gateway over here, pour something in here and another gateway there, and it lands in a cup on the other side of the room. That's like the level of dexterity that he has with gateways. And Willie, you don't know this yet, but in the last book, they use that to devastating effect, which is very fucking cool.
I've heard some tidbits of that.
Okay.
So my question, the bond, you say the Ashaman discovered the bond first with their wives. Is the extra bit later on just for Aes Sedai? I suppose they're not compelling their wives to be obedient.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that the point that it being an extra bit
yes.
is it's not the norm.
Yes,
The
they've,
norm would
they've
just be
adjusted
normal.
this,
That's-
this bond that they've set up for their
specifically for
wives.
Aes Sedai.
Yeah,
There's an
But he
extra-
says as much. He's like, usually we don't do that extra bit.
right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I think Logain here just said, okay, cool. Red Sister, very angry. I mean, she was well, there were some descriptions, I can't remember them now, how she was like fighting this
Yeah,
this thing that was going to happen. But yeah,
it was heavily implied
bonded
that she
against her will.
orgasmed.
We have spoken about bonding against the will, Alana Rand, and now it's the opposite way around. Rand didn't have quite the effect when he was banned.
No.
Like,
Okay, look,
but
these women were on their way to the Black Tower to kill them, right? Elaida said, hang them. So, I'll give Logan a little bit of wiggle room on that one. And poor Tovian, her fate is pretty shit. She is forcibly turned to the shadow by Taim and 13 Madral. So her fate is not great.
A lot of that goes on at the Black Tower later on. Yeah.
Gets pretty gross there, hey? Yeah. What else, Joe? Anything else on either the Black Ajah hunters or the Ashaman bonding Aes Sedai?
Nope. I've made my spurious
Very
comments.
few notes, yeah.
Yeah.
I did think finally the Aes Sedai are starting to think about the Black Ajah properly. One of them actually says maybe they remove the 3 oaths and replace them with their own. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
they do.
Welcome to the party. They mention here the Daughters of Silence. Do you remember who those are?
I remember the Sisters of Silence, but that's a different
that?
universe. That's Martin,
Is
George
that-
R. R. Martin.
Oh,
The women
yes.
that bury, that take care of all the burials.
Yes,
That's who I
yes,
thought
yes.
of. I was like, what? But they're Daughters of Silence.
The Daughters of Silence was a group formed in the year 794 New Era by 2 former accepted who were put out of the tower. They gathered 23 wilders and organized, taught, and trained them with the One Power. When the Aes Sedai discovered them, they disbanded the group, enrolled the students, quote unquote, in the tower as novices, and punished the 2 former accepted who started the group. The punishment was severe and public to make sure that the lesson was carried to everyone who might entertain the thought of channelers outside of the tower banding together. Only one of the women enrolled as a novice, so one of these students of the Daughters of Silence, ever became a full Aes Sedai, and it's Seren Asnobar, the woman that came in and took that oath.
Once to take the first oath.
Cian and Pabara. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. My one thought about the bond, like the Ashaman have this bond, and then I read up about the extra bit and the bond that the Ashaman do, and that's how I know about, like, it started with the wives, and then the Aes Sedai have their bond with the warders, and then also the first sister bond. So there's 3 different versions of this bond. Moradin earlier was marveling at this bond that the people of this age had figured out. Like, no one in the Age of Legends figured out any version of those bonds, and here we have 3. So, Forsaken need to just again, give credit where credit is due. These guys are figuring out some shit that we never knew.
Bond, the origin of bonding was to try and save the male Aes Sedai from the madness. Something to attach to them to try and help them. I remember reading something like that.
They
Like,
did. It
when
wasn't the
started.
bond, I don't think, but they did do something. Were they trying to compel? No, they.
To help them from the madness, from the
There
sickness.
was, you're right. There was something they tried to do. Okay, call back.
Go back. And
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've definitely read that. Well, you're right. Like, they did do something to try and help them, but they were unable.
successful.
They were
But they
unsuccessful.
discovered something else. It's cool. We'll just keep
I
tabs
think
on
it
the
was
waters now with this
necessity,
thing.
Maybe it
being
was
the
the
mother
bond.
of invention. The Aes Sedai Age of Legends people, they were comfortable. They had so much going on that they didn't need something like that,
Yeah, they also didn't have
Whereas-
the vial and
In a
the
new
taint.
broken world,
No.
you kind of needed.
Well,
that kind
the
of shit.
Ashaman discovered their ability, not discovering the ability to bond, but thinking that can I do the same thing that Aes Sedai do to their warders to keep tabs of my wife, for us just to know that while we're away and they still at this dark tower with a bunch of madmen, that they are safe. So that's maybe, or that they are not being unfaithful. Like
I
a
think
little
it's the
bit of
safety thing. I
compulsion.
think it's said straight up in this chapter, like the men
Yeah.
wanted to keep track of their loved ones.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So our final chapter for this episode is chapter 27, called The Bargain. I know we can bargain on a summary from you, Jody.
You can indeed. So, the previous chapter, or was it? No, it was Villy's first chapter, was an unwelcome return or something. What was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Yeah, when you read it and then the first word was like, Elaida. I was like, oh, it's unwelcome that Elaida has come back into our lives. Unwelcome for her point of view was Alviarin, I get now. But when I read that, I was like, oh, I wonder, these titles do work on various levels.
Multiple levels, yeah.
Yeah. And The Bargain, I was like, oh, God, the sea folk, fuck. I have to get these things. And then it starts off with Min. I was like, yay, Min. So at least, RJ eases us back into this. So we got Min, waiting in Rand's quarters in the Sun Palace. She's been waiting a while, and she's reading one of Herod Fell's books. Now, she's turned out to be a real scholar, hey?
Yeah.
This orphan raised by her aunts in some backwater town, working in bars, and she understands Herod Fell stuff, and she finds it fucking fascinating. She's really into it. But she's a bit distracted, because she is waiting for this son of a bitch Rand to come back. When all of a sudden the doors open and there he is. How convenient for the plot. And she does not jump up and go running over to meet him because he didn't write her any letters. There should have been more of those letters. She's worried, she doesn't know where he is, when he's coming back. That bastard. He should have been back sooner as well. He said he'll be gone for 3 days. It's God knows how long.
I'm sorry, I just got to interject there about this
What?
letter writing.
Sure.
When a woman wants you to write her a letter while you're away, Rand just took it in the most very literal sense. I'm okay. And it reminded me of the movie Green Books, where
The Green Book, yeah.
where he writes in the beginning his letters and he's like, I'm having a cheeseburger. It is good.
That's basically it, yeah. He's just telling
That's
her,
what
like,
Rand's doing.
I'm fine. Fighting battles. Trust no one. That's like it.
Yes.
Both his letters end with trust no one. And it's like 2 lines. That's it. So, yeah, she's pissed at him. But also happy that he's back. But anyway, he had to come in past the Maidens. And I mentioned this in our last podcast when he's flittering all over the forest fighting all these guys with no maidens. What do they feel about this? I was correct in assuming they are pissed. I suppose everybody assumed that would be the case.
Super pissed.
Super pissed. They don't want to talk to him either. They just let him in. They don't announce him. They don't open a door. They don't do anything. They just fuck you again. So he's got pissed off women all around him. But he's just happy to be back. So yeah, he comes in. He's still wearing the crown of swords, and it's actually like picked into his tops of his ears and everything. He's kind of bleeding from wearing this thing for too long. There's a lot of in this chapter of him like lifting things up and flying them across the room, spinning around in circles and whatnot, and putting them down nicely at the end. We'll see some of that later as well. But he takes it off eventually and floats it across the room back to his disgusting dragon throne that he has in the corner. So yeah, he notices that something is up with Min, and it's like, why are the maidens so pissed off? It's like, the maidens, you should be worried about me. What the fuck about these letters I told you to write? And he's like, I did write you letters. I was eating a cheeseburger. Technically, I did write you letters. And also delivered by Asherman. Like, you didn't even bother to deliver them yourself. One of them was Narishma. And then that reminds him as well. And he's like, oh yeah, Narishma. I did tell him about all those traps, didn't I? It comes up again, yeah, because he's, at least it seems like he cares. Because he's like, fucking, did I tell him everything? Because he's now starting to doubt himself.
Sure I did. Yeah.
I'm sure I told him all about all those traps. No, you didn't, Rand. You crazy bastard. And the other one was Adley. Adley? Am I pronouncing that right now? The dead guy.
Jonan Adley, yeah.
Jonan? Yeah, Adley, the other guy, who was eyeballing up and down. I think he walked in on her while she was, he gatewayed in while she was in the bath or something, or getting dressed. And he just, like, totally stared her up and down. And then Rand's like, oh.
I feel so bad for him dying now, do we?
No,
I killed
less
him.
bad.
Not he's dead. I killed him. She's like, oh, fuck. All right, well, don't worry about it. I'll just keep that to myself then.
Yeah.
We don't want to. She doesn't want to get his because she's talking a lot. She's thinking a lot about his anger and his rage and his outbursts now. So it's becoming more and more because that's out of character for Rand. Like Rand from Two Rivers is not someone who explodes with anger and jealousy.
No.
So we can see his downward descent and Min's noticing it. Dubrain comes in. Good old Dubrain. Pops in. Rand's like, sit, my man. Let's have a chat. And Min's again not happy. Like, dude, you just walked in. There's a bedroom next door. I've got some things I want to discuss with you in that bedroom. But no, Dubrain comes in. Have a seat. Let's have a chat. So she has to play servant and bring them wine, and she's not stoked. She's fucking sloshing the wine around, smashing the trays and the glasses together. Rand is just oblivious to it all, just happy to see her. But Dubrain's kind of like eyeballing her, like askance, like, okay. She brings him his wine and slaps it into his hand. It's spilling all over his cloak and everything. And he's like, thanks, I suppose. Yeah, so Rand's like, well, tell me, what's been happening since I've been away, you know? He's still, well, like, Torum, Rioton, remember that douche? He's gone. He's vanished. No one knows where he is, but rumor is he's still alive. Old David Hanlon, also major douche, and the king of the douches, Paden Fane, as you call him, have abandoned Rioton, and they've also gone MIA. So I've lost track of everyone who's super dangerous to you, basically. Not a good job, Dubrain. Also, I've acted on all of your letters that you sent me. And I'm thinking when I read that line, like, shut up, man. And Min's like, all of the letters? What are this all of the letters? I only got 2. What did you get, like 20? So anyway, Rand's been writing tons of letters to Dubrain with instructions to sort out Lady Eilil. She's been given apartments, very nice apartments, but her servants are very loyal to me, along with Bert Tome, because we can't trust this guy. Like, I mean, they can trust him. He never ever does anything. He never conspires against Rand in the series. I've read up about this guy. But just no one knows where to put him. So we're just going to not trust him, to be on the safe side. Rand also asked for Wyramon and Anayela to be given apartments and watched over, which Dubrain is a bit, like, really? Wyramon? And turns out, Wyramon, because he's a fucking moron. You can't trust anything he does because he's going to fuck it up. So we'll keep him there. And Anayela, why? And Rand just asks him, like, how do you know if a woman wants to kill you? So it's like, okay. So this woman wants to kill you. Right. So now I understand. So anyway, Wyramon's also got, and Anayela also have servants that are loyal to Dubrain, watching over them. So all tidied away, packed away in a corner, being observed. Oh, old lady Caroline. I say old lady, I mean all. And the High Lord Darlin are also in the city, like you mentioned earlier, Moritz, under the protection of Cadsuane, or sponsorship, however you want to phrase it. Cadsuane's name comes up a lot of times in this chapter. Min's thinking about her in the beginning as well, when she's considering Sorelia and all of the wise ones. But Cadsuane, she's everywhere. Later on, old Rafella and Mesaana enter as well. They've also come to have a chat with Rand. The last time we saw them, he had left them on a seafolk ship, where said bargain comes into play. So they have to come to tell Rand the bargain that they have made with the seafolk. Now, admittedly, not as bad as Nynaeve's bargain, but still not great. So, 1. They have agreed to give all the ships that the Dragon Reborn wants, whenever he wants them, to do whatever he wants, wherever he wants. He's like, oh, sweet. Okay. They've also officially recognized him as Coromor. As if that makes any difference. 2, they also want 1 square mile of land at every port. So every city that is next to water. Rivers, oceans, whatever. All right, they want a piece of land there, and that is where seafolk rules will apply. They will not be interfered with at any points. Also, all of this is conditional, of course, that Rand does not change any of their laws and their traditions and their customs, as he has done in various other places. And this new 1 square of mile of land, whatever that they want, has to be agreed upon by the lords and the kings and the queens of all the areas, just in case Rand dies, so that it's in perpetuity that they will always have these pieces of land. And he's like, yeah, I get it. I'm gonna die, no doubt. I understand your point. Now comes the shitty parts, because they were 3 and 4 as well. So number 3 is he has to keep a sea folk ambassador with him at all times. Hareen Din Togara has agreed to be said ambassador. She will be bringing her Windfinder, her swordmaster, and her entourage of people with her. And this is where Rand starts losing his shit. Now he's angry and screaming and floating over the dragon scepter, the Seanchan scepter over to him, threatening and pointing, and he is not very happy with this at all. And number 4, he must promptly obey summonses from the mistress of the ships. When she calls for him, he must come. But, just to be fair, only twice every 3 years. Now he's really pissed off. He's like, what the fuck? I left you guys to sort out a bargain for the best, and now I've got to promptly obey summonses and give away land, and he's screaming his head off. And then Mesaana loses it. She finally snaps and starts screaming at Rand. She's like, listen, you left us there in a shitty situation. You were a Taviran in the room with these sea folk, and they were dancing to your tune, giving you everything you wanted, and then you fucking got up and left us there dangling. When you left, they realized that they had been manipulated by a Taviran, and somehow, Aes Sedai, just being small-minded, couldn't imagine that the sea folk had also developed shields, shielded them in case they would use the 1 power against them, and then took over the negotiations. And that's where everything went to shit.
Yeah. Then they went extra hard in the other direction.
Exactly. And
Bargain got driven home in the wrong way. I mean, it is, on all accounts, just shit bargains, which makes me like, my biggest question of these bargains and about the sea folk is, they've got gateways. Why the fuck do they need their boats?
I suppose
who's
there's
got
only so
gateways?
many gateways. Rand, I suppose, and Ashima.
Yeah.
We've spoken about this at length before. Like, what use are ships, and what power and influence do ships have ever after gateways are invented, right? Like, why do you need ships at all for anything?
Well, I suppose there's only so many channelers who can be making, you can't have a channeler like an Ashaman or an Aes Sedai that all they do every day, all day is transport merchandise through gateways, they're important people.
They don't have to do it all day.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Also, a lot of you have to be pretty strong to make a gateway that's going to fit as much stuff as fits on a ship. So, super strong channelers are world leaders, not, transport agents.
No, not logistics
couriers.
Consultants.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you're still going to need ships. I can see why they're going to need it. So while they're doing other stuff, the ships can be, cruising up and down, delivering troops, food, supplies, whatever. Yeah. So I see the need for it. So yeah, she's freaking out, Mesaana that is, screaming at Rand. Everybody's freaking out, everybody's eyes are growing wider and wider as she's laying it on him, saying it's his fault. This is a shit job because you were there. You would have had everything you wanted if you hadn't left, and blah, blah, blah. And Rand actually goes, you're right. I did leave you kind of a dog's breakfast, he calls it. Yeah. And you kind of did a good job in the end. This is not the worst bargain I've ever heard of. It's not what I wanted, but okay, you did a good job. I'll give you that. I am not going to murder you right now. You can keep living. So he's again heard about Cadsuane. He's coming up a lot. So he's like, listen, I got to take care of this Cadsuane woman. Let me deal with her right now since I'm on a roll. Men, can you go outside and tell the maidens to bring Cadsuane to me, please? Go summon that woman. So Min goes outside to tell them, and they are playing rock, paper, scissors. In silence. Nobody knows what they're playing rock, paper, scissors for, but we will see later. It's like, so they normally play a cat's cradle or something like that. They're always playing some little games, but this is the first time we've seen, I think they call it rock, paper, dagger or something. I don't know.
Something along those, it's close.
Yeah, it's close like that. So, yeah, anyway, they go blah, 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 and one of them runs off to go and deliver the message to Cadsuane. So, yeah, again, without a word. No one has said hello to him. No one is saying anything. All the maidens are completely quiet. When Min returns, then all the other visitors get out of there. Like Dobrain leaves because when they hear that Cadsuane's coming, everybody's like, "Well, look at this! Oh, I got to go! Look at the time! Oh my god, someone's calling me!" And off they go. Everyone's running for the hills. The Mesaana and Raffaella are out the door immediately. Dobrain basically running. They're out of there. So Rand and Min go to the a more private chamber to discuss what Cadsuane is doing. She wants to just watch him undress, basically. That's what she's after. She's in a mood. But Rand's talking to her about I've got to deal with Cadsuane because I trust everything you say. And Min has told him in a viewing that Cadsuane will teach him and all the Aasimar something that they must learn. Yeah. All right, so that's all he knows. They don't know what it is. They're talking about it again, about what he must learn. So he's trusts Min so much that he's going to have to deal with Cadsuane. He doesn't want to, but he's going to try and treat her with as much respect as he possibly can, taking into consideration his feelings on Aes Sedai. All right, but it's super important. So he's trying to take off his shirt. He's got his shirt over his head when all of a sudden the doors to the bedroom open and in come 3 maidens. Samara, Nasir, and Nandera. Good old Nandera's there. Mm-hmm. And Samara, we know. I don't know if I remember Nasir, whoever that is. Regardless, these are the 3 winners of the rock paper scissors contest outside. And while Rand has got his shirt up over his head and his arms stuck in the stuff, I think it's Samara that kind of grabs the shirt and twists it so he can't get out, and the other 2 just start fucking beating the shit out of him. I think it's Nasir that grabs the shirt because Min is sitting on the bed when she sees all this. She jumps up screaming to help him, and Samara just kind of karate kicks her in the stomach that she falls down with her hair out. She can't do it. Just fucking roundhouse kicks her. And the other 2 just take to beating her. I think it's, and then Nandera just kicks Rand right in the nuts. Strike 1 so that he falls over. And they just beat the shit out of him. Taking very good care to not hit him on the never healed wound. Yeah, so they're teaching him, they're not just being douches. There's a lesson to be taken from this beating.
They're not being reckless.
But it's, they
being
are
violent,
thorough,
but not reckless.
They don't want to kill him.
Yeah, they want to
their
make
brother.
that point.
They just want to get their message across.
Like the Russian police, harsh but fair.
Said no one ever. So basically, when they are done and he finally falls to his knees, they stop and they were like, "Listen, you son of a bitch, you will not do this again. What Jody was saying last week, he was right. You carry the honor of Fardaris Mai. You are a son of a maiden, and we have given up everything for you. And you will not disrespect us like this again. You want to dance the spears without us? You can go right to hell. We will be there for everything, every battle, every skirmish from now on. Mm-hmm. And this is the end of it." Having accomplished their task, they leave. Min wants to have them punished. He's like, "I'm going to tell Sorelea about this. She actually won't do anything, to be honest about it." Rand's like, "Calm down. They are right. I was wrong.
I deserve this."
I deserve this beating. Yeah. They are 100% right. I knew what I was getting myself in for when I left without them. I'm sure he knew what he was getting himself into.
He must have.
Yeah. So,
otherwise, he's an idiot.
Yeah. Min just thinks he's being stubborn. Stubborn men. Mm-hmm. But he's right, and the maidens are on it as well. So they lie down on the bed. She gets him undressed. She changes her plans now because she was going to jump his bones, but he's a bit too injured for that now, for any rough canoodling. So they're just chilling on the bed. They're snuggling, spooning. When in comes Daigain Mossen. Her.
Mm-hmm. Daigan.
You thought Cadsuane was a bitch. This is her underling. She is horrific as well. She comes in all bitchy about everything to tell Rand that Cadsuane is too busy with her embroidery to come and see Rand right now. Her entrance is all like, "Well, I don't want to disturb whatever this is." Like, "Oh, you dry old crusty woman. This is 2 young people in love. Stop being such a..." I was so pissed off with her. She's all salty. It's like, just because you can't find a man, don't take it out on poor Min. Let these two young lovers have some fun. So yeah, she's just come to tell, to piss Rand off, basically. It works. Rand is pissed. He screams after, and then she leaves, and he screamed after the Cadsuane and go to the pit of doom for all he cares, blah, 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 screaming his head off. And to chill out. She leaves. We change over to Rand's point of view. 5 minutes later, he's getting ready to go and see her. So much for pit of doom. Yeah. So he's like, anyway, screams after her, and then he's like, all right, fine, I'll get dressed, I'll go see her. But he's getting dressed to the nines. He's got the snug pants on again that Min likes so much, and that's a very well-fitting green coat. He's looking very much kingly. He puts on the crown of swords again, a bit more carefully so he doesn't slice his ears up again. And he's going to go and have a chat with her, but he wants to go, in force. He's going to make a show of it. So he takes along with him Deshiva and Hopwell and Flynn and more to make a grand entrance. All right. And some of the maidens come with him as well. So they're not going to leave him alone again. And off they go to Cadsuane's quarters. He just barges in with his retinue of people with him. And Cadsuane is predictably unimpressed by any of this. Yeah. So he's, there's this thing that Deshiva does. He has this weave that just causes unease in the room. It's not like a weave that's directed at anyone. It's just like a ominous humming. I imagine it's kind of like violin sounds in a horror movie or something, when something's up.
I got the idea that it feels like it's closing in on them. Like Rand says that he felt like he needed to look behind him to see what was coming.
Yeah. Some sort of just bad juju is happening right now.
Yeah.
Kind of a weave. Just an intimidation weave.
Yes.
People are like, it's intimidating Rand, but again, not Cadsuane. I wonder if any of her like little things in her hair are making her immune to any of this. I don't know, whatever it is. Also, just being 400 years old and badass, she's seen some shit, and this is.
I'll put it in the callbacks, but I'm pretty sure one of her hair ornaments is much like Matt's medallion.
That's what I think. That's why I bring it up, because I remember that being the case. So anyway, Rand's seeing now that this is not working, and that she's not impressed by any of the show. So he tells him, "Listen, Ashaman, you can go wait outside." Again, Deshiva not stoked, blatantly angry at this decision. He's like, he has to tell him again, like, "No, fuck off, please." And everybody outside, I want to talk to her alone. So he walks in, channels grandiosely, opening the windows, letting in flurries of snow. He picks up a chair and flicks it across the room and sits it down in front of her and, takes
Doesn't he fly his cup of tea outside so that it'll cool down because it's too hot and it comes back in the window?
He first channels to make the tea hot again and then pours it into the cup and tastes it and goes, "No, too hot," and then flies it out the window to get cooled down and brings it back in. And then when he takes a sip, it tastes like shit, but he has to keep a straight face. The temperature's right, but now it's so bitter he can't drink it. Like, oh. So he is kind of a child. So what he does is he offers her a position. He's like, "Listen, I want you on my team, all right? You're obviously like trying to placate her a bit as well. Like, I'm going to offer you. I'm now the king of Ilion. You can see. Look at my crown. I want to offer you a position as my advisor. Like kings have Aes Sedai advisors, so I want you to be that." And she's like, no thanks. I'd rather not. I don't like taking orders. This is not what I want to do." And he's like, "Oh, well, shit. There goes my plan." He's trying to be civil, though. I'm pretty impressed with Rand at this point. Like, I would have given up long ago. But he pushes through. He knows that he needs her. That's all because of men.
It's because of men.
It's all because. So he's like, "Listen, what can we do about it?" She goes, "Listen, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to make any oaths to you or anything like that, but I'll make you some promises, and like I'll promise. Basically, the promises are, I'm never going to force you to, into a direction that is bad for you. It's everything I do is going to be for your own good. It's not going to be for my good, and certainly not for the good of the White Tower. So I'm not going to be like manipulating you. This is not a tower thing, all right?" Which I thought was very important. Especially to Rand. And she knows his history as well. So, everything's going to be for your own good, and I want you to be honest with me and fucking civil. I won't have any rudeness, boy. Like a lot of talking down to him all the time. But basically, that's it. Like, you be civil to me, and I'll do my best to help you. And even if you don't like it, which you won't, I imagine, 99% of the time, it's for your own good. All right, Rand's like, fine. These promises sound like threats, but sure. It seems like we've come to some sort of understanding. And he's walking out the room, and she goes, well, I hope you haven't tried to use Calandor. And he's like, what? How do you know about Calandor? And she's like, no, rumors come to me, and I heard that it went missing from the Stone of Tyr, and I assumed you took it, and there's something you should know about it, and that it is flawed. And this is where Rand finds out about the flaw. That it doesn't have that buffer in it to protect you from drawing too much, and also it will only work if you're linked with two women, and one of the women is channeling the flows. Or directing the flows, So he's like, okay, that's not what I was hoping to hear. And then thinks about himself, is like, is that strange feeling about Saidin near Ebou Dar? I was like, no, Rand, it wasn't Calandor. But yeah, Calandor didn't improve the situation very much.
No.
But that is a serious problem, because he has some plans, which we find out about in the next book, that he was going to use Calandor for, but now he has to use something else. Something else a pretty dangerous and beautiful pretty dangerous woman told him that by her side they could rule the world together, challenge the Dark One with said Sir Ungriels if it came down to it. So now he's decided, well, fuck Calandor, we have to use the
big guns.
The big guns. We're going to have to whip out the big guns for this one. And that's how the chapter ends, basically.
The elephant rifle needs to come out now.
Yeah. And that's that. Now.
Shoo. Okay. Willie, what you got?
Oh, I only have all the fun little tidbits of that whole thing.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Firstly, I had to interject the love letters that didn't materialize. Just trust no one. And then finding out, obviously, that their brain got multiple letters. The Maidens
pages
kicking
and pages.
the shit out of Rand was perfect. It's and Rand knew it was coming. He knew there was going to be, because he has been warned. He has been clearly warned about
multiple times.
So, and of course, Cadsuane playing it as cool as iced tea is just
sitting there in her chair when there's like swirls of snow piling up around her chair and her feet.
Because Rand opens the windows, right?
Just leaves them open. Snow drifts
and
collecting
also
at her feet.
Too busy with her crocheting at the moment to come and see the Dragon Reborn.
Doesn't even stop crocheting.
Yeah, such a power play.
Yeah. Rand thought he was going to come in with a power play, but it was too much. He went overboard. Subtlety is the key.
Well, firstly, he's got to learn to heat up his tea with the power the right way. Like flying a teacup outdoors. I mean, a bird could have shattered it. It's just not. It's just not. It's just not a good thing.
He's just trying to show off like his dexterity with the power. He's just showing off. He's being, like Jody said, like being like a young idiot. Cadsuane brings that out. Yeah, she brings that out in him, and she exacerbates it. But when she says to him, "Whatever I do will be for your own good, not mine, not the tower's, yours." You thought, Joe, that was actually quite important that she says that. I read that as like, that actually doesn't mean an awful lot. Okay, the tower part, yes, I will give you that. But whatever I do will be for your own good, according to her.
Yes,
she could be doing a lot of things that Rand will not like. And like you said as well, like it will probably happen, right? Like there's going to be stuff she's going to do that he's not going to like. But I guess she's trying to tell him that she isn't doing it for other motivations. She does truly think that whatever she's doing would be good for him.
I think the important part being, I'm not going to make you a puppet of the tower.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a lot of morsels for this one. I've got a couple. Vil, was there anything else you wanted to say before I dive into my little
Now you can
nuggets.
dive into your little nuggets there. We'll
Okay.
just hop on in the background like otters clapping.
Okay. Um, there's a bit of loose theron that comes out when Rand is looking at Min. He's like tugging at his earlobe and humming.
Yeah.
And then Min can't even make. She wanted to give. She was trying to joke with Dobrain, or she was thinking about joking with Dobrain. I don't know if he made a comment about her pants or something, but she was going to say like how
Yes.
good his legs looked, despite the fact that they were old and knobbly and stuff. But she stops herself because she doesn't know for a fact that Rand won't get jealous and do something to Dobrain. Like, so she understands that Rand is on a knife's edge all the time, which is good for her to understand because
Yeah,
it
that
is certainly
started
the
off
case.
with the brain calling her Lady Taviran because of how she's influenced all the nobility to change what
Yes,
they
they're
wear.
dressing like her. Yeah.
With coats so short they don't even cover their.
Nope.
Never mind.
But
I'll just stop there.
It's only in this chapter now where it has fully landed for me. Like, for the longest time, since I read the books originally, just wondered, like, why does Rand put up with Cadsuane's bullshit? Right? Like, because she gives him a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I obviously know that Min had this foretelling or this viewing, and she said to Rand, like, you need Cadsuane. She says it in this chapter again, I think, like Rand wants to do something, and Min is like, no, Rand,
Nice.
you need her. Yeah, exactly.
not just Rand and the Asherman.
Yes.
They all need her.
So
need her.
Min's viewing about Cadsuane is the whole reason for Rand sticking with her up until the point that, in his darkest place, he actually does send Cadsuane away eventually. It's after Cadsuane allows Semirog to get access to the domination bands and like forces Rand to like strangle Min. When that whole scene plays out, Rand says, those were your responsibility, Cadsuane. Now you get the fuck out of here. And if I even see you, I will kill you. And she has to leave. So, I mean, he does stick with Cadsuane for as long as he can, but when he's at his lowest point, he does eventually send her away. But it's a good reminder for me, like the whole reason why Rand is putting up with her. There is a blanket reason. Min said you need her. Min said keep her close. And therefore he puts up with this like avalanche of bullshit that she throws at him for the next couple books until that other thing goes down. She also, when they walk in, like Rand is all in a huff, and she's sitting there. She starts making jokes immediately about like, oh, what are you guys here to like perform a show or something? You're going to start juggling fire. What else? What else do you want to do as part of your performance? And Dharma Flint starts laughing, and he doesn't even hide it very well. Like he's chuckling in the background, like he's laughing at Cadsuane's jokes. And I just had a moment of like the old guys in the room, like they're chuckling at these young kids and how like impetuous they are, which was cool. Yeah, that is pretty much it, Joe. You covered everything else.
That was the idea.
It was.
I don't always succeed, but yeah, I get it.
Another idea that you don't always succeed at is picking a favorite moment. Have you done so for these chapters?
I have.
You have. You're
indeed.
nodding. Willie, you look like you've somewhat gone to sleep.
Sitting always ready.
Always ready. Okay, cool. Vil, lay it on us. What's your favorite moment?
My favorite moment is all about absolute bravery and a pair to outshine all other pairs. And Alviarin has that. She is ballsy in her moves and scheming in the tower at this point in time.
Yeah.
She shows her loyalty to Mesaana. She grovels, but while she's kissing the feet, she's looking for something to give her that edge over it.
Filing everything away.
Everything. She's really deftly playing the tower like a fiddle at the moment. And then, of course, she's got a mighty right hook that she delivers to Elaida, which makes her ears sing and see spots. So that's my favorite moment is her maneuverings at the moment.
I mean, if I had to step into your dark friend's shoes for a minute, I also admire just how ballsy and how ambitious she is. But she also needs to tread pretty carefully because, I mean, she's slapping Elaida, bossing her around. And also when she walks into the room and the other Aes Sedai are there, she's got this air about her like she's in charge, and she needs to be a bit more careful, I think. Like she needs to just be rein it in a little bit around the others. I mean, sending out all those things before waiting for Elaida to like, sign them. Someone might piece that together. She is acting pretty boldly. But yeah, no, she's got Elaida well and truly by the scruff of the neck. And even though, like you said, she grovels to Mesaana and like she understands how important the Forsaken are, there's just a part of her brain that she cannot switch off. It's like, oh, I've got a bit of information now. Oh, the hem of the stress. She's in the tower. Okay.
If you look at, for instance, all the female Forsaken, there's that sort of attitude in all of them. It's throughout. They will all. Yeah, well, the Forsaken
ambition.
in general,
naked
the
ambition, right?
the ambition is there. That's why it would have maybe been interesting if she was able to achieve, because out of all of them, Liandrin, no,
she's Forsaken material, eh?
She is.
She's truly Forsaken material. She's a strong channeler. That would have been like Liandrin. No, she's just not that person. Like all of them are just hateful and dark. They're just dark friends. But
dark friends who happen to be
for me,
yeah. Now, Alviarin is showing some smarts. I mean, they would not have put her on the Supreme Council for nothing either.
Exactly.
She's obviously they've seen potential in her.
And made plans to murder her later on in case their potential gets too out of hand.
Yeah, I mean that's a clause in every Dark Friend and Black Ajah Dreadlord Forsaken contract.
Kind of like when you sign the contract, you know that also behind you there's another contract being signed. Keep tabs.
Shaida Haran just adding you to his little ledger.
Yeah, he's eye list.
Yeah. How about you, Joe? Favorite moment?
Favorite moment, Talene being outed as Black Ajah. I'll read it to you.
Do.
Now move out of my way, Talene demanded with all the authority of a sitter in her voice. I am leaving. I think not, Pavara said quietly, and Yukiri nodded slowly in agreement. Seren did not stroke her knife hilt. She gripped it till her knuckles went white. I was like, fuck yes, I'm so stoked because this is book 8 and we've known the Black Ajah are in the tower for so long. We finally got one. And you fucking going down.
Yeah.
I like Pavara's like, I don't think so. Under her breath, you ain't going nowhere.
Pavara is a fan favorite. I mean, I think mostly because of her relationship with Androl and like what they achieve later in the story. But I mean, she's the only red sister we like. Do we like her? I like her.
Yeah. I mean, I like her more than ever now. And I mean, like, her whole life, she's lived with her family being murdered by dark friends. And here's one, a Black Ajah in front of her who wants to
betraying
leave.
her new family.
No, you're not going anywhere. I've got you fucking now. Yeah. I lolled out loud, yes, in reading this on my bed, like, oh, yeah. Like, it brought up some strong emotions.
It's not often that we pick 3 different favorite moments, but mine is not either of yours. It is seeing Liandrin cowed and controlled by High Lady Siroth. Ooh, that felt good. Oh, I just like that. And Alwyn, like, being all pissed off with her for not listening. And
Does my ears deceive me that all 3 our favorite moments have to do with dark friends?
Black
they do,
Ajah.
except yours is Black admiration Ajahs. And ours is stoked about them getting caught and they're getting their comeuppance.
Well, no surprises there.
Vote's a vote.
Do you guys have any honorable mentions? I've got one.
No.
Mesaana going off on Rand and like finishing with like, and yes, they finally acknowledge you as the Coram word. May you get a bellyache from it.
Yeah, that was funny.
And then Rand's response being, you're right. Because after all these chapters where we've seen Rand go down the dark path and he's just killed a bunch of his own men and like he might lash out at Dobrain if Min makes a joke and that sort of thing. For Rand to just like be old Rand again and acknowledge like, actually, you're right. And then he compliments Mesaana. Like you said, Joe, like he said, I left you in a shitty position there, and you came out with actually not the worst thing that could have happened. So well done. You know, like that just feels nice to see, like a glimmer of like sane, rational, compassionate Rand still in there.
Because they noticed that something I forgot to mention is that, again, Ta'Veren at work. Like, Mesaana is shocked that she said that. Because it was his Ta'Verenness that brought it out of her. And his Ta'Verenness works in mysterious ways. Yeah.
And doesn't one of them also say, like, oh, it seems like it cuts both ways. Like, you don't always hear what you want to hear when you're Ta'Veren. It's just,
exactly.
Could be anything. All right. So then to our listeners, send in your favorite moments, your theories, answers to our many questions, or just say hi. You can do that using any of the social media links in the episode description, or you can go to bloodandashespodcast.com and leave a note or even a voice note that we can play on the show. Buy some t-shirts while you're at it. When you've done all of that, you can prepare for next time on Blood and Ashes, where we will do the finale for The Path of Daggers, which includes chapter 28 called Crimson Thorn through to chapter 31 called After. So we'll do our normal summaries and chapter comments, pick our favorite moments, and then take a look at the book as a whole, which I think will yield some interesting conversation. And then we'll pick our favorite moments from the book as a whole before shifting our focus to book 9, Winter's Heart. But until then, it is a cold book.
A lot of cold. A lot of cold.
It's the winter in the title.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Snow on the
random
cover.
Wild guess, but yeah.
But until then, I will say to everyone, sleep well and wake.
Cheers, everyone.
Good evening.